Let's see, April 27th, 1989. This is Joe Todd and William Vanderburg. They were interviewing Lee Hurd in Swink, Oklahoma.
Right.
Now we're set. Tell us again where you were born.
Over in Lamar County, about 6 miles southwest of Paris. Back in the days when the doctor was like a veterinary, come out to your house and deliver your baby. They don't do that anymore, but that was a while ago.
When's your birthday?
August the 9th, 1970.
Who is your father?
John Hurd, J.M. Hurd.
And your mother?
Ella Wisely Hurd.
W-I-S-E-L-E-Y.
L-E-Y.
Where were they from?
They were over there in Lamar County, was born there. That's what they called over home. I went back quite often to Lamar County. My dad had some land there, and it was my grandfather's and a family thing. But and incidentally, I've got the deed from the state of Texas to my grandfather after the Civil War. My grandfather was a Confederate soldier in the Civil War, and he was, what they call, I'm not familiar with military things, but mustered out, is that what you just, all right over here at Old Fort Towson, that's where he was mustered out. And his family lived over here in Red River County, close to Clarksville. Well, as I remember, his horse got killed or died, and they furnished him a horse. But when he was released, I'll call it that, they gave him this horse he'd been using, and he had a clean shirt. I guess tied up and went across, swam Red River, and it was a booger sometime then before that lake controlled it. But went back to his family's home over there. And not long after that, he married my grandmother. And her father owned about 1,200 acres, as I remember the story, in that black land over there. And he gave each one of his children a portion of land, 80 acres or 100. Well, my granddad said he had a little old yoke of oxen, little. He couldn't break out that heavy sod. He had this saddle horse. So, well, he found somebody to sell that. That was his wife, my grandmother. And he went down to Lamar County in that gray land, more timber too, because you had the fences, He cut rails and fences. All right. He bought that gray land and raised his family there back in those days. A lot of families were big. He had, I believe, 10 children. And then my dad and his brother came over here to Swink. It was a long ways then. And that was in 1910. Well, they didn't bring my mother and me here till 1911. That's when I came, or they brought me. But, and this has been my home ever since. 78 years. 11 from this.
Any stories about your grandfather in the Civil War?
Well, only, I remember he was in this battle down here in I forget so bad, all those old legends, but this, there's a big bridge there across the Mississippi, and it was right there on the Mississippi River.
Vicksburg?
Yeah. I remember going by there one time, and I'd forgotten. See, I was only 7 years old when he died, but he lived just across the street, and I just shadowed him. And he told me these stories. And also told me about this commanding officer. It was his commanding officer. And he was from Louisiana. I visited that old battlefield. This may be offensive to you, I don't know. But anyway, I happened to locate this statue, you know. And this old bearded, and I remembered. I went over to that old fellow I was by myself, the family. And I put my hand on him, and I promised God and everybody concerned if I lived to be 500, I'd never vote a Republican ticket. And I put my hand, and I never have. I worked on the election board, precinct election board, the years old enough to vote. And I've never missed an election. I was out in California for a while, but I voted absentee. This is more like, I know it sounds more like an autobiography than somebody, but I'm just filling you in. I'll stop about me directly. But anyway, he was a little fella, and that darn war killed him, but he just wouldn't die. He had pneumonia a time or two. They dropped him off as the army moved at a farmhouse or something, but finally I forgot. My grandmother used to keep a kind of a little diary, and one of her daughters got it. I remember her reading to me. After he died, she lived just alone across the street down the other end of town. And I thought she was real old. Well, she was 88 when she died, but years ahead of that, I'd go, you know, get water and bring in wood for an old fireplace, you know, and she never asked you to do nothing. No. If she wanted a backlog, she'd end that booger up and roll it like a barrel to the steps. She'd get that on the fireplace. You know, she's told me those stories, but you know, I guess I've forgotten.
What was your grandfather's name?
His name was Simeon Decatur. He's buried over here, Swink Cemetery. Simeon Decatur, S.D.
Why did the family move to Oklahoma?
Well, they came from Texas. My father had been, as a young man, in the territory before. He come down here to Goodwater, Oklahoma, that's in McCurtain County, and worked for a cousin in the store there. As a matter of fact, they had a little store out in the rural over there in Lamar County. And then at a later date, he went up in western Oklahoma around Cushing or somewhere. Him and a cousin had a little store up there. I forgot the little town. So I guess they wanted to be in the mercantile business. Well, they came over here to Swink, and old man Dave Swink, you know, the old town daddy that it was named for, he had a store. He owned a store. What is it, sister? Can't hear. What? What do you want?
I was fixing to take the telephone off.
Oh, that don't bother us. They may think this is a busy office that we're occupying here. There's a telephone in that other room, she can hear it too. But anyway, they bought this store, and of course the lot. As you came back, you know where that old, well, that's the place. And from old man Dave Swink, well, there was a couple of men, little, and I forgot the other fellow's name. They owned the merchandise. You know, they was running this store, but old man Dave had owned the building, you know. So they bought the building, and then later they bought this, in a week or such a matter, they bought this stock of goods from these merchants, and they went over to Fort Towson. And this fellow Little, there's two families, two old man Greenberry Little was this man's daddy, and old man Taylor Little was Margie, you know, Gary's mother, grandfather. Yeah, they lived here. But anyway, that is in 10. In 1914, that whole damn thing burned. According to, well, they never could prove this, but they suspected that there was another little store down this row up there, and that bastard burned it, you know, to collect insurance. The whole side of town burned out. Now, what I should tell you, when I came here, there was 14 business houses up down that street there. Now that included a little old restaurant, a shoe shop, pool hall, Billy Swank's wife. You know her?
Yeah.
Well, her granddaddy, old man. Yeah, hell, I can't even call him on name. Anyway, had a pool hall there, and stores, and there's 14 people come down, unlocked, opened up for business. And the rural people called it coming to town then, you know. And there was a water well right there in the middle of that blacktop, and a house over it. Watering trough, bring your team, you know, and water them and tie them up somewhere, and walk up and down these old boardwalks, because there wasn't no surfacing. Mud that deep in the winter. Shopping, yeah, gosh. But then come cars, a few. I can remember very well when your car tag was 9 or 12, 14, never more than 20 in the county, you know. I remember I was a long-legged kid, but I'd have to sit, you know, in my dad's lap back so my legs long enough to get them old T-model pedals, there 3 of them, you know. And I learned to drive this, you know, 1918 model, T-model. He later had an old Maxwell, and I was old enough then to put it in time when he jumped. But anyway, I remember her first driver's license. This old girl in the courthouse, I forgot, she's some old discarded school teacher, said, "Well, Mr. Hurd, how long have you been driving?" I said, "Well, since 1980. Oh my goodness, that's all your life." I said, "Well, not quite." But I said, "I just tell you the truth." "Well, that's back at, you've been driving too long." Amusing things has happened to me. But anyway.
When did you see your first car?
I believe it's over in Lamar County. My folks used to call that going over home. And we had gone over there. Both families, both sides, you know, my family was there in Lamar County. I mean, a lot of them. And I believe this was a Buick car. I saw it moving, and somebody says that's so-and-so's Buick. Buick, that stuck with me. And I think the next that I remember was an old woman doctor, which was unusual. I've forgotten her name. And she had a coupe like. Was electric. Making noise. Well, actually, I ought to back up. Now, I believe the first, they called it a car, an automobile. Old Dr. Bonner over here at Fort Towson sent away, mail order maybe or something, I don't know. I just heard him say he sent away for it. And this was like a rubber-tired buggy. Had wheels and wooden spokes. And there's a little one-lunger engine in the back behind this seat, you see. And it had a lever. You shoved it to crank it, because later the old man didn't get along with it. He didn't make many trips till he just stored it. And he sold it to my dad. That damn thing won't run. I forgot what he gave her. Now, anyway, we went over. I was a little kid. I went with this hired hand. And we towed it behind the wagon. And I drove this old team. I was old, gentle team. We come around this, the south route. Used to be a road to Fort Towson through there. And this old boy, he was a partner with my dad in the water well business. And he's supposed to be a mechanic. He had a old adjustable wrench and a pair of pliers. He was pretty good, though. I come to know him because I worked with him in the water well business. He knew more about it. And he'd give me my first lessons. And I spent my whole life in drilling water wells and setting pumps and that, see. But anyway, he made that sucker run. I'll never forget. I don't remember how it worked as well as I do T-model, but it had a tiller. And it'll come up and stick. And that's why you steered it. And you felt every movement of a clodder. But you steered with this tiller. I think that was the first, if you call it an automobile, that I ever saw. But I remember that Buick. Can't remember its color, but it was. I can remember very well when we'd make trips in the summer. You didn't dare try to go in winter much. Roads are muddy and gone. But you'd go over to Lamar County, Parish. And your folks planned that for a week. My dad was so busy, but at mealtime, why, he discussed it. Now he said we to me each time I was that high. And maybe why I'm so great. He put the load on me, send me on the train over there to sell this hay matter, the hay that year. To old boys he'd gone to school with. They wouldn't take advantage. He'd tell me, I looked it ought to be worth about, Well, I had to go, and these old men played the game with him, I guess. And boy, I couldn't have fun. My granddad lived out in this community. My mother's father. I'd get on old Charlie, go down to old man Gambles or 2 or 3 other, Jackson. Well, what do you want, Mr. Hurd? Just an old greasy-headed boy, Well, I had to, but when I got this business over with, then I could go rabbit hunting or, whatever. I had fun, but I had this responsibility. Oh, man. We wanted to do so-and-so and plan this. My mother'd fix the lunch, and you'd crank up. That's another story I'll tell you about later. You'd go down to Red River. Big old trees there. You'd have your lunch. Well, there's a ferry this side of that railroad bridge. And Above it then there was another ferry. One was named Jones and Record. My dad knew this fellow Record. Well, he got acquainted with Jones. But anyway, you'd go across that darn river, and then you'd fluke, you know. And maybe you didn't know, but Northeast Texas isn't sectionized. Part of it is, but that isn't. So your deed calls from a boardwalk stop, so on, fence, and so on, back to that. And the darn road's laid off by a drunken Indian. You may go around 2 or 3 sides of a man's farm. And muddy, boy, but anyway, this particular time, in a little boy's life, his dad is his model for everything. See? And I thought my dad, you couldn't tell a lie, you know. He'd teach you, you know, by watching and by what he said to you. You tell the truth. It may hurt right now, but it won't haunt you later. You tell the truth. Well, we'd cranked up this old T model. Oh man, had old lights, you know, magneto lights, and they'd flare up if you raced your motor and then die down. So, just a break a day, boy. Here we go. Well, this is summer and made the trip. Oh, so at this little country store, my grandfather's, my father's father-in-law, these old men around there, you know, well, John, how'd you come over? I drove my car. You did? What time did you start? Oh, so up in the morning. Oh, boy, I was hearing this. Little boys then, they just listened, you know, they didn't talk. That's why I'm behind now. But anyway, I run to the house about as far as over there. My mother's in there. I was ready to cry, you know. So I wanted to talk to her away from one of her sisters and her mother. I want to come in another room. Well, I told my mother what he had said, see. Of course, we both knew. Up in the morning, nothing. Boy, we started at the first dawn, boy. Well, she tried to explain that to me. Well, now that was wrong. Don't take this as... Now, he don't practice that, but these men, these old men, he went to school with them, and he's got a car. There wasn't any hardly in the community. He wanted to impress them with this, how fast you could, you know, get to that 50 or 60 miles, whatever it was then. Now you run over there, get a Coke, you know, and back. But it was different then. I've gone down there in a wagon or a buggy, them old ferries, and that river be up, boy, old trees. Roots are sticking up, you know, where it caved on. One time, had this big mules and young, and a nigger too to help, you know. Well, they had to walk out in the water a little ways. They finally got them on this old ferry, put chains up in front, unhooked the traces, you know. And anyway, we got on the ferry. And have you ever seen a ferry boat, how they're made? They got these reels here, and you let one rope longer, and these pulleys run on a cable tied to big trees out here. And you kind of one longer than the other, and it sets at an angle, and the current will just take you right across. In the summer when it's low, you got a big old wire and a stick with a gap cut in. You put that and walk. Come back. That's the way you cross. But this time, man, we got across. Well, of course, we're in a hurry to get on over before dark. We left. But when we came back, it was still pretty high. I remember the folks talking this story. Well, the next load going back, you wait your turn on whichever, and big old trees come down and hit that boat and was going to swamp it. And they cut these big old knives in a leather pocket there for the business. They cut them big old ropes, turned it loose, you know, and go with the drift. And it went down the river half a mile. They had teams that fought, you know. They hooked on and towed it back, got it back in business. And then as we came home, maybe 2, 3 days, a week later, the same thing happened to the boatload behind us. But boy, you knew all this and you worried. You see these big old timber, old trees that get together, you know, kind of out in the middle. It scared a little boy to death, and my mother too. She was pretty high strung. She'd prefer to go on the train. Get on the train, go to Hugo at the junction, wait a while, then go into Paris. Yeah, she didn't go too often in that buggy or in the wagon. Yeah, I remember those old ferry days. Now, you steer me off of this foolishness I'm on if you want something different. Have I talked you to sleep?
No, not yet.
Well, I can tell you,
Did you know Dave Swink?
yeah.
Tell me about him.
Well, he was a tall, black fella from Tennessee, him and a brother, Bill Swink, and he lived his life till he got killed down here south of Valiant on the river in there.
What happened to him? What?
The nigger killed him. He had a lot of land and, oh, you know the story goes. And he worked it with sharecroppers, or this old nigger man claimed to work for all these years and he didn't have nothing, you know. It wasn't unusual, but maybe old man Bill Swink was different. Anyway, this nigger, I guess, anyway, come up. The old man had a store there, old man Bill Swink. This is the facts. I don't know what the rest. But he come up there with a, I believe it was a shotgun. I'm gonna say it. Somebody might. But anyway, he come up there. He'd been talking to old man Bill, and so he just come back and said a few words to him and shot him. An hour or two, he was dead. Well, of course, they got that nigger, and they was gonna lynch him and all that stuff, so they got a couple of fellows. I knew one of the old men, and well, I knew both of them. They took this old nigger in a car. That's what I was told. Just gonna take him to Hugo. He'd be safer out of McCurtain County because this old man Bill Swink was pretty popular for one reason or another. He had a bunch of land there. And so they got the other side of Kamish, and they stopped or something, take a leak or something. This nigger had handcuffs on and all this. So anyway, they told him to run for it or something. Well, old nigger, of course, he had enough sense to know that he was going to kill him anyway. So he run a little ways from the road, and they shot him 2 or 3 times and killed him right there. So the peace officers was worse than any mob that might have got together. But that was old man Bill. Now old man Dave, he was a quiet-spoken fellow, and he married old man Henry Harris down here at Harris on the river south out of it. He married one of his daughters. And so, actually, I've seen pictures of it, and old man Henry Harris had a little Indian blood. He married an Indian woman, had some children, but then he gathered orphans and all this stuff. I'll tell you about him too. He was a mason, and he died down there, and the roads and everything was so bad, they notified, and I can't call it, an old man, he's dead long ago, down here at Cromwell. The old man wanted a Masonic graveside. So, well, my dad was down there at Goodwater, and he saw this. They dug a grave and put the old man down in it, some boards or something. Well, gosh, weeks went by, I think. Well, finally, I did have this old man, call his name, Uncle Bill. Anyway, he wrote, somewhere I've got that, about this, and my dad had told me before. Well, he got 2 or 3 buggies and an old shay or something, and they went down. And in the old man's big old house, they separated the room there and opened the lodge and went over and lifted old man Henry out and give him his graveside ceremony and buried him. But anyway, old man Dave Swink married one of his daughters. She looked like a white woman. I never knew her. But he had this one son, Robert Swink, Margie's daddy, and his mother died. He lived in this old log house, the old chief's house, they call it, you know. That's where Robert Swink was born. Well, his mother died, I think, at childbirth or something. Well, they took Robert down at old man Henry Harris, and they kept him a while, and then, well, then old man Dave married another. I don't know if she was a sister or a cousin. Anyway, another Harris woman. Then she was the mother of these other, I guess, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was 5 boys and a girl. 6 children out of this number 2 wife. She was a Harris too. She could have been a sister, either a sister or first cousin to the first wife. But Robert Swink was just half brother to the rest of these. And he had a son a little younger than me. His name was Inman. He was crippled from his birth and died. Oh, he might have been 12, 14 when he died. But he was too young to get this allotment. All the rest of them got so old man Dave owned land from all over. But he was a stockman. Sometime before I knew him, why, he actually farmed, I guess, because I heard Robert, he told me one time, when I come here, Robert Swink he wasn't married, but he was a young man, and I'm a little bitty boy. But he said this old pecan grove, you've been down there in them old big native trees, he said they was there. And they used to farm this 80 acres in corn, and they a little wet down that end of town. They left them trees, they didn't cut them out of the, you know, you cleared a lot of this land. Gosh damn, when I come here, oh, they was clearing land and burning, found mostly hardwood, of course. And there's a family in darn near over 80 acres, trying to make a living, or, you know. It was never any prosperous times here. You know, since I can. Now, they had moved over there where Bert Swink's little old house up there in the field. The old bean boy, you know, had the land sold. Well, that's just south of the Swink Cemetery. Well, that's where old Swink was. Well, in about, I believe I had a town plat. And old man, I knew him in his lifetime. Old fella would get drunk, but he was started out at statehood, county surveyor. I can't call his name. Anyway, and he surveyed this. Now this was old man Dave's head right. See, he married under the Indian law, and he got an allotment of land. This 80-acre town site, and this that Gary's got, that's 160, that's old man Dave's allotment, see. Well, then his family, man, it just had land all, even that old chief's place out there. Well, I think Henry, one of his sons, Henry Swink, he killed himself years ago. And he had land, he had cattle. Of course, he had little old rent houses. They'd bring in this portion, you know, corn, we'll say. He had a stud and a jack. He farmed with horses. People concerned with mules and horses. And anyway, I'd be up there around these places. He's a kind of and in the fall, renters bringing in, he'd almost forget. Some of them, you know, they'd come in, they'd have this wagon box, the sideboard, you know, full of corn. Well, Mr. Swink, where do you want this? Well, my cribs are all full. I think I put some in a stall over there. Let's go look. Well, that stall, unhandy to scoop it up, you know. Well, just drive your wagon out there and then empty it in that hog pen. Oh man, he just had a lot of hogs and whatever. One old boy is kind of silly, lived back down the railroad here. And he's 50 years old, I guess, and just him and his mother. He'd never been married. But he could work, but he just had one paddle in the water, you know. He wasn't in certain Blevins. Well, Ed, have you got a place in your... Oh, yes, sir, said I. Didn't make very much corn, but now this is your part of it. Well, Ed said, you take it down there and put it in your crib. My cribs are all full. You just gonna give it to me? Yeah, go ahead. That's the kind of fella he was. But these old boys, you know, like it was in those days, half the people making that homemade whiskey and the other half helping them drink it. And they'd, you know, disturb the peace, get an old pistol and shoot it in the holler. And they'd have old city marshal. Well, he'd get out and rub his hand, stop this old cow pony, drag these old boys off. They had a little old calaboose built 2x4 laying flat, you know, crossing at the ends. It was a sturdy little fellow. And boy, I'd put them in that calaboose. And my dad, they're pretty close, that store, you know. They built back that brick building after this old wood building burned. I got a picture of that wood building. But anyway, Had to muster up, pay $8 or $10 fine for disturbing the peace or whatever. But there was some, right back of that store, an old boy shot a man and his wife in the back. Well, shot him in the back. And she turned around and he had this old shotgun, you know. Don't shoot him anymore, don't. He was pointing at it. Well, he shot her from the chin. Boy, he killed her like that. But this man had this hole blowed under his shoulder blade, and he lived an hour or two. They carried him back up by where that little hole in his church is. There's a fellow there named Perry, Jess Perry, Skinny Perry, and Dan Perry. You remember their daddy? Well, and their mother's gone, and the three of them. Well, no, they had a sister, Kate. They lived there, and they put this man on Perry's front porch. Of course, he just bled to death there pretty quick. Poor Jess come in one day out riding a bicycle by there, and he had this new lumber in his wagon. He didn't buy much new lumber then, you know, unless you... Not many people build a house and even repair it. A day or two I'm back by there, and he took these boards up. His daughter, you know, had scoured and put lime. That blood just penetrated that wood. He took them plank out and put new ones. Yeah. So there was some of that, and fights. I tell you, when I was a boy, I started school here. Well, old boys, they just fought, fist fights, you know, like shooting marbles or spinning tops or flying kites. And gosh dang, well, of course, sometimes you'd go down that branch or get out of sight. Old teachers, you know, would frail hell out of you for that. You couldn't fight. You couldn't have no tobacco either. I don't care. I've seen old boys, grown young men, coming to school maybe in 4th grade. Oh, boy, big old rusty-fisted boys. They didn't know from... They knew me-bane and half and half or yellow dent. They knew how to take hold of a cross-cut saw and saw. All the fuel was wood, you know. They didn't have gas or petroleum products. None of that. They could do that, but gosh, man, why? Maybe they'd be in the 3rd grade or something. And just sweat, boy, try to draw out their name. And they, their mama'd go to town in the fall after you get your crop, you know. And you went into dry goods stores and you had cloth and boats. We had it up here in this. And you bought this blue denim or whatever. And your mama would make you these breeches. And they'd put pockets, these front pockets, like a hip pocket, just sewed on, you know. And boy, that's the kind of, well, some old kid, they'd buy work clothes, you know. Maybe they could or wanted to, but a lot of them had them homemade breeches on. And if you learn pretty quick. I was a little old beanpole of a kid, you know. It was kind of like in prison. If you was a little kid, you know, you saw some old boy take a chew tobacco or something like that, and you told the teacher, oh, boy, your name was Mud, they'd drive you in the ground, boy. So you learn right away not to be what they called a snitch. You didn't tattletale on nobody, no. They'd pull your fingernails out and you still wouldn't tell them. But it was rough. Doggone, I couldn't win. And boy, I'd try. That old boy said, why, I can whip that little skinny bastard. You better watch. Said he. If I was down, if I could move, get hold of a leg or something, I'd try to eat it off. You know, he said, he'll sure bite you, don't. Or if I got a pretty good plunk or two, I'd try to dive in and get hold of something. And I had good teeth then, boy, better than these. And I'd try to eat them up. But I've had big old pump knots on my head. Big old rusty-fisted boy. Don't think you can't be hurt by a bare fist if it's been sawing wood and picking cotton. Yes, sir. But I'll hush now.
Why did the Swink found Bill Swink? What was the reason?
Well, evidently, a community of people right in this area, and they come in and I guess because they could buy a little space of land cheap, and there's several houses over there and a schoolhouse and a church over there in that field, see. Well, since it's there, and the old man decided to get this surveyor down. I don't know why he decided that. Maybe he had a little money or something. And evidently it didn't mean much. And he surveyed this off and got a big old board arc stakes and drove them. I remember when I come here, they were still there at our property down the other end of town. And my dad, don't loosen that, leave that alone. And he explained what. But then he had a chance to make this Pine Belt Lumber Company. I know you've heard of them there at Fort Towson. These fellas come down here and talked to old man Dave, and they kind of wanted to put that operation here. Well, no. He said he would sell them a lot, several lots if they wanted to build a house or a store, but he didn't think that would be very good, this sawmill. But he wouldn't sell them his land anywhere, to put this sawmill operation. It was a pretty good, it turned to be a pretty good thing, be a pretty good size operation there at Fort Towson. So this old man come by the store, the head of this committee that investigate and locate and feasibility committee, I guess, said, feller, said, your little town here is never going to amount to anything till the death angel visits it. What do you, old man Dave Swink that owns it, he's got to go before, he wouldn't deal with us at all. So they left. But I don't really know any other motive, only. And then they moved these houses, you see, from over this old town, and there's only one left. When I come here, why, gosh, there's a lot of them. I knew the ones that had been moved. And I saw the old equipment that they moved them with. Big old timbers sawed out of a virgin tree, And then they had axles, maybe a 2-inch and 15 shaft. And they must have had some kind of a wood lathe because they had big old rollers. They was drilled, because I saw them right down here in the other end of town. Look at them when I was a kid. Well, they'd go to these low jerkwater mills. There's a lot of sawmills. And they'd get lumber or juggles or something and lay a track. They'd mire down away to a house. Well, then all the neighbors, several teams, I don't know, they'd hook and move them across. That was, I think, that might have been before before the Frisco, this Hope to Ardmore division. I believe it come in 1902. That's the way I remember. It was before my day, anyway. But they moved this town here. And gosh, they used to be, there wasn't very many vacant lots from that branch back this way. And then from that branch onto the top of the hill, that begins to get black land, sticky. And if you're just going to have a house, well, you'd rather not have that old sticky black land. Yeah. So, but there was some up and down that street, and then there was another street on this 80 at the other side went on to the top of the hill, and a few houses there. But other than, but I think, I'm not sure. I might have some old, I guess I've got some old deeds and thought that maybe find out. But I don't think he got over, maybe $25, $30 for a resident lot, 50 by 150 or 140. He left out a 20-foot alley. But that's the only reason I know. He wasn't oh gosh, he really wasn't. It seemed to me like he'd wait till Sunday to get these old boys together and go off down to the pasture and round up some cows and castrate or saw horns, or seemed like he wasn't bad to go to church, I know that, but he did go occasionally. And he married the third wife from over in Lamar County. My dad took him over and introduced him to this widow. Well, when she come here, why, she, changed the old man Dave. They seemed to just get along fine till he died. But she was got smart, pretty churchy, and so they had there's a church building, good big one, a whole community, just a community church, no denomination. Big old building. They built that. And any preacher come along, they didn't have a regular one. Help yourself, free, regardless of denomination. Well, when Miss Meath come, she was a Methodist. Well, anyway, old man Dave owned this lot. Well, I just picked, we picked down there in the pecan grove. You have a picnic or move outside and have old kerosene lights, and preaching outside. Move the benches out in the hot summer. Well, old man Dave, Miss Meath had him to deed this to the Methodist church. Well, there was Methodist church then. They was, kind of liberal. They would let somebody else of some other denomination come. But anyway, it didn't make everybody happy because you know how religion is. In my opinion, it started more wars, rivers of blood over religion. Right here, in our Western world. The wisest man don't know how many different religions. I don't get. And some of those people, just observation, some of them just despise one another on account of their religion. And if you trace the start of wars, religion, that sure has something to do with it. And I tell you, the 100-Year War, the 30-Year War, all these wars going to the Holy Land. Shoot. But anyway, old man Dave lived on to, his grave marker's out there. But he didn't make a great deal of money. As a matter of fact, he was broke when he died. And the land, of course, his children, it was their land. he managed it for a long time, and he had pastures, and he had renters, and all this, and boy, Bob Swink down there was a good cowman, and a good fellow. But boy, he wasn't financially successful. He raised a good big family and all this, but he cost old man Dave. He'd buy some livestock, and the minute he paid for them, they increased in value a third to half again. That dog boy, he'd miss selling something at a nice profit, and something would happen, and he just didn't make a lot of money. But he fooled the cattle all his life. And I shouldn't criticize him, because I done the same thing. I got sent out as a kid with an old drilling rig, and when I'm too old to, anyway, to carry on that job, why, a whole lifetime. And I don't censure myself too bad because I haven't got any money. I just never did make any money. I'm a pretty good money manager, but I never could manage to get any. No, whole lifetime. Anyway, I was afraid. I saw my dad. He was easy touch. That's the way you put it, tender-hearted. Some fella come in. Well, I know you can't furnish me to make a crop. You said you couldn't, but would you let me, for 30, 40 days or something? Them old books is down there in his attic after him and my mother is gone. I come back here, I was out in California, and I painted the old house just for my own feelings, Cleaned up and, and I sold it. But up in this old attic, them old mildew books, and I'd help post them books, He decided to keep a double entry ledger. I'd be sleepy, set up and help post these old books. And I would know these fellas, most of them are dead, but their sons and grandsons, I had to look at them. And I'm telling you, boy, it just broke him. He just dwindled down. And that put the fear in me. That debt, if I'd have been capable of taking care of a giant corporation, if I'd have going in debt for it, I couldn't run a shoe shine stand. It was something just unreal. That debt, I just wouldn't. 55 years ago, nearly 56, I told the gal, well, I had plenty of time to tell her. We went together about 7 or 8 years before we married. We wasn't just kids. But I said, no debt. Well, she was for that. And we just didn't make a debt. If it's something you wanted, you do that a debt. You didn't just have to have it. And you put money in a sugar jar or something till you could buy it. And then you'd be so proud of it, you just sit down and look at it like a little kid with a new toy, God almighty. But we just didn't go in debt. I bought a Ford truck, several years ago now. And went into this dealer. Well, I just, I pretty near had to have it because it's a one-ton truck. And I used it pushing tools and, going to work. And I had a couple, but so anyway, I go in and make a deal for this truck. I said, how much do I have to pay down? Not anything. I said, Mr. Hurd, if you want that truck, it's in the showroom. What have you got to trade? I said, well, I've got old Hannah sitting out there, but I don't want to trade it because it would offend me what you'd offer me. I got sentimental reasons. Well, anyway, finally he told me, he said, I'll give you $200 for old Hannah and just give it back to you. I want to sell this truck because a farmer don't want it. It's built like a pickup, had a metal. Just what I want. You don't need nothing down. I said, look, fella, I don't understand this. I said, you don't know me. And how comes it, you know? Well, he said, you know that lad right over there? One of Clarence Adams' boys got killed there in Hugo. His wife's supposed to. I said, I knew him before he was born. Okay, he said, that's the reason I do know you. So, anyway, seemed like I give him a check for $800. And I got one of those, it was all new to me. Got one of those little books, you know, you tear out and mail in this. Oh man, the longer I waited, you know, the thicker that book got, I'd never get to the end. And I had my daughter at college up here. You might have known Dixie, my daughter. Yep. She was going up to Oklahoma University. That's where she went that one year and married old Joe. But anyway, God almighty, so he said, they're gonna, this auto company, fix me up with this, you know, this loan or whatever. Well, like this man, only I can mistreat him. I thought I couldn't then. So, now, where do you do banking business? Well, I got a little checking account across there in Security First Night. I don't do no banking business. Shit, I don't guess they know me. Well, where do you credit? No, I don't. No. This old boy, no. He's an old gray-headed man in here. I said, is there some trick to this? He said, no. I don't start out by saying now, I'm telling you the truth, because when I'm talking business, I'm telling you the truth every time. I said, I don't owe nobody. I have never borrowed any money. And so I just, well, we just got to have, and I thought, that is, before the end of War II, out in my glove compartment, in old Hannah, I had these letters from a company up to Oklahoma City that I'd bought pipe from, and they sent me this, I don't know, letter, and I could buy $2,000 worth, you know, just call them, for 60 days or 30 days, I forgot. And then a place over here at Bob Swain Hardware at Parrish, maybe you've been in the place. I knew old Bob, and I took him all the money I made for bearings and shafts and belts. So he had sent me. I don't know whether that was something doing with the government. Well, I had those too. I went out and go, oh, that's fine. So anyway, they wrote these, typed this off in the bank over there, where I had a little checking account. Some of the time, sometime it was a few hundred, and sometime it was just raking the bottom. But anyway, everything lovely. And I paid that Ford truck out by the month. I'd make an old well, maybe nothing to break. You know, maybe 300-400 feet. And tell the gal, she was my right hand. Now her hand shakes, she can't even write. And she was crying to friends, Thelma, why don't you ever? Well, honey, you know, that hand shakes. I can't even. So one day I thought about this after I sold my equipment, you know, and, you know, I couldn't do that. This typewriter went under the bed or wherever the hell she stored it. I got that out. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Boy, she sat down to start this brown cow, you know, and that hand would hit that spacing bar. That's as near as she come crying about it. She just dropped her head down there. Couldn't even use the tack. Oh, boy. Oh, gal. She's deaf. She's got 6 hearing aids. And about between $2,400 and $2,500 worth of hearing aids. She's still deaf. I mean, with them damn things too. And then she fusses with the dentures. She's got 4 sets of dentures, 3 different, doctors. And then she's got curvature of the spine, and her back hurts. She's got a little nest. We kind of combine into a little, in the back of the house there, dining room, kitchen, one little unit. And it's not much to heat. We even got television in there. Well, there's one in there too, bedroom. But anyway, we stay in that. Well, this little, I guess maybe you call it a love seat or a little couch or nothing. Hardly long enough to lay down on. And she sits in the end of that sucker. And all along here is a toolbox, you know, where it opens out. She does that darn needlework. Any kind, you know, knitting, crocheting, tatting, cross stitch. And that, she managed to get that hand. She's about to finish a cross stitch thing with all 50 states and an emblem or something. And you count this weave and warp of the cloth and little bitty needles. But she just insists, and she's worked it out some way. But if she reach over to pick up a cup of coffee, she wouldn't get started till it just involuntary. You know, it's not Parkinson. You know, that's a kind of a roll. Never stops. Well, this is cousin, I guess. I think it's like Parkinson caused from deteriorated brain cells. I don't know. Not much you can do about it. No tranquilizer, and she won't do that. But and if her hands, you know, get so tired, she may pick up this book of crossword puzzles. Her hands just won't. She can't sit down. She could, like a normal old woman, just lay her hands in her lap. Oh no. She gonna do that. She's gonna be doing something. I told her. In my case, I'll probably just rust out. But hell, you're wearing that. Sit down and rest. No, I can't stand it. No, I've never traveled or had much to do with the state. I've waded in the Atlantic and the Pacific. I never had much desire to go north across the Mason-Dixon line. And never had any call to. But anyway, I know. When I was a kid, I loved history. And boy, I had that. When I'd get a textbook, doggone it. You'd have a portion, a lesson assigned, you know. Well, boy, it is to me like fiction. I'd read that doggone thing, and it confused me a little. And I never was good at remembering dates and stuff like that, but I knew something about Oklahoma history, but anymore, I tell you, most people I talk to, when they're, say, 50, well, they begin to, they can't hold out doing a certain thing quite as long, or they forget more often than they used to. Boy, when you pass that 80 mark, old Father Time with that side blade on it, he just mows you down, part of you, you know what. Sometimes it embarrasses me. If I meet somebody, and I used to think I knew everybody in radius of 50 miles, because I'd been in their backyard making a well, or, you know, somebody come over and talk to you about a well, and maybe never. And my business is on wheels, you see. Anymore, I can go to town, and if I'm waiting on somebody, I don't stay unless I am. And I see people like, you know, at a grocery store or something. Dozens of them. Valiant, Fort Towson. Sure, you couldn't run if it is a stranger, boy, I wanted to meet him, see, but I knew the rest. Now, I may go to town and stay an hour, you know, and I won't see a face I know. That's right. Gosh, it didn't used to do that. And I forget.
Did you remember that 1,000-acre farm over here?
Oh, yeah, mighty good. And when I come here, everybody referred to, oh, yeah, that's a part of the old 1,000-acre farm. Tell you the truth, I know, you know, I may just stick my neck out. When I was a little boy, there was old men here, including old man Dave Swink, and an old friend of my dad's, a Dane, old man Albert Casperson. Never married, come here from Denmark when he was 15 something, never went back. But he lived with the Indians a lot. He's smart. And he rode a little old mule from old Goodwater to old Goodland up here by Hugo. A mail route. I don't know how often as he could make it, I guess. And he would stay out there at that old house. And I can't tell you if my life depended on it. But some old fella was a kind of a missionary. Now this is a story that I got. Of course, I've had it rebutted a lot. But old man Childers, old man Dave Swink, a lot of older fellas is in this country. Old man Miles Barnes. They knew. This old man come in, and he brought a bunch of nigger slaves. And old man Albert said he would stop there, and they had this big old barn, and they'd take these stock dogs and put them in this barn, lock them up at night. Said the little brown bear pretty thick, and panthers. And he said he put his horse in, his mule, in that barn too, and close it. And along this door, a little space on the door, blood with these dogs and wild animals. And this old man lived there in this string of shacks, you know, for the nigger slaves. And they put in 1,000 acres of land, you know, it reached near to the railroad and back. I don't know just where the lines were, but they had to clear virgin timber off of that. And they put in the old 1,000-acre farm. Well, when you said the old 1,000-acre farm, everybody knew where that was. All right. Now, that house was built by the government for Chief, what's his name? LaFleur, and so might it be. Don't matter to me. But I heard these people talk that knew this old, they called him a missionary. Come here and he'd have church or something, and Indians would come and he was kind to them. On the left hand, he had this bunch of nigger slaves that he used to clear this farm, and they farmed it. And they would haul this cotton down to Red River, and they had some kind of an old barge of a thing that would haul it one way or the other, maybe downriver, I guess.
New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans or somewhere like that. But I heard them talk about it. Well, it surprised me about the old chief's house. You know, I didn't know no Indian chiefs or anything like that. Oh yeah, they got a record of it in Washington D.C. You know. But I was just here and I heard them old men talk. And old man Dave Swink lived there for a number of years in this house. See? Because after this was gone, or the chief, or this missionary, or I can't tell you his name, old man Dave got that, and he lived there when Robert was born. That's his oldest child. And God darn, I guess Robert would be 100 years old now. I don't know. His marker's over there, it'd tell you. But anyway, he was a man, 20 odd years old, I guess. When I remember seeing him. He wasn't a very big fella. You ever remember him, Robert Swink?
Not Robert.
Bert. Huh?
Bert is.
Oh yeah, well yeah, he's a
Commissioner, yeah.
Well, anyway, Robert was a small-like fella, and he wore those cowboy boots all the time. Oh, he'd get drunk, and he married old man Taylor Little's daughter. And she'd hold on to his arm, you know. In those days, you had a choice of riding a horse, or wasn't too many buggies here. Now over in Texas, northeast Texas, lots of buggies. Churchyard would be full of buggies, you know. But there's a few here. But you'd walk. Of course, hell, everybody is accustomed to walking. And they'd walk down the railroad, 4 or 5 couples, you know. Or go to church, have on them old spurs, come into church, rattling. Robert's wife hold his arm, him about half drunk. Well, when they married, so far as I know, no more. I never saw him drunk or misbehave or nothing. I don't think he drank. He might have on rare occasion. Now maybe Gary could tell you. His folks, you know, Margie's mother or something. But before that, every Saturday night, you'd hear, if I heard him holler, I'd know it right now. But now old man Dave, he just stayed home, and he'd come up to the store. He treated my dad and his brother, Joe and John Hurd, kind of like, you know, like his sons and everything. They'd ask Mr. Swink advice. Well, I'd be afraid to do whatever they said. I don't know. Now, whatever you fellas decide, you do it. But you ask me, and I'd be a little afraid. Well, they valued that. You know, old man David said, don't watch it. But he was a kind-hearted old fellow. He'd help people in need, and there was a lot of them here. He wasn't no just pushover, you know. I can't do that. But he'd butcher out days he'd be butchering hogs. Big old smokehouse just hanging. Well, some of these old boys, his sons I'm talking about, they'd take them hams and trade them to some bootlegger for half a gallon of whiskey or something, you know. But he would take a fella out there have a little sickness in his family, you know, or something. Well, let's go out here and you don't need any money if you had what money would buy. No, but I want to borrow a little money, Mr. Swink. And he had been known to take out this old snap-shut pocketbook. Old men used to carry them. Snap-shut. The gals got our dads in there. Fish out a bill. It didn't take a very big one to... in 1933, of course my dad had this store, and I'd bought a lot of groceries left-handed. But I never went into a grocery store to buy a bill of groceries. I was 26 years old. Well, anyway, he was out of business, sold that to another fella. And I went to Valiant. There was a kind of a chain, local chain store there. And I used to remember exactly what I bought. Now I'd butchered hogs. I had cured meat, and the gal had a milk cow, and I had 2 milk cows. And her folks, I guess, gave her a dozen laying hens, you know, big old yellow. Well, you know, you didn't need a lot of things that you need now, because you produced it right there. Well, I go down there to buy this first bill of groceries. And I got in those days, you bought flour and you made your own bread, see what I mean? A 48-pound bag of flour. That was a family bought a bag of flour. There was a bag of flour and a 2-pound container of coffee, ground coffee, and baking powder, soda, and a box of salt for the table, you know. I probably had a sack, a 50-pound sack of stock salt, but anyway, I don't know, it was several items, and they put it in a box, a cardboard box, and this clerk, manager of the store, helped me carry it out to my old park. And I'm trying to think in my head, you know, running my computer till the wheels is hot. And I give him this $5 bill. And he gave me a $1 bill and some change, 25 or 30 cents. All that grocery stuff. Well, now, the other day, I bought a little candy sack, no bigger than that, no bigger round than that. This old girl said, now, Mr. Hurd, before we go into this seed corn, the kind I've got is really high. Well, I just wanted a little bit, you know, a little cupful or something. $4 and a dime, little candy sack. Half of it's out there in my bunkhouse right now. I didn't need to have it. $4 and a dime for a little candy sack. Just a little, wasn't that high in that little candy sack. God, I don't know how much a bushel, but it was all painted red and all of this.
How do you butcher a hog?
What?
How do you butcher a hog? Different steps.
Well, first, you've done it, haven't you? First, you kill him, you know, or I always did. Shoot him, kill him. I've seen old boys just catch them and, you know, stick them, what we call sticking them. Cut an artery and just turn them loose. And they run around and grunt and kind of squeal till they finally just bleed to death. Oh, that makes the meat better. To me, that was inhumane. I'd take a little .22 and shoot that hog, get over in there and stick him and try to, if he wasn't too heavy, try to get him, you know, so he'd bleed good. You do want him to bleed. Then you, most people will have, from not much over 300, 250, 300 pound hog. And you can take a barrel, like a wooden barrel, preferable a little bigger, any kind of a barrel, and you dig a hole, put the back end of that barrel so it's slant up, and put a stick of wood or something, and then a couple of stakes to make it sturdy, and take these old cast iron pots and heat this water. That's not the way they do it at the butcher, but at home. And you pour that water, and then some old man would let it get too cold. Oh, still too hot? No. Yeah, about right. And then time you drug that hog, you stick him down in that, turn him, pull him out, let him air a little bit, stick him back, change ends, pull him out on the, you have some old 1x12s, you know, on these boards. You take a butcher knife and that hair will pull out most of it. If you don't, you have your knife real sharp and you just shave it off around his head or something. And he'll just, if he's say like a white hog or a red one, now black, sometimes that skin is kind of black. I tried to, I didn't, well, as a kid I raised, I had, one time I had 3 sows, I'm telling you, boy, and a boar, stood a boar. And, you know, Duroc, the old red-eyed Duroc Jersey. If you let that booger have a birthday, you'll have a big hog if you take care of it. But then later, when I just bought pigs, a couple of male pigs, and castrated them, put them, you know, and well, I tried to get that white, because whenever you scrape him in the meat, that ham or that side, pretty white, you know, look clean. It'd be just as clean if it was black, you know, Poland China or something like that. But, well, it's there's several steps you take, and but of course my folks done that. My father raised on a farm. See. Even after he come here, well, he didn't own any land here, but he rented some land, because he thought, you know, if you didn't have a crib of corn, oh man, you might as well go out to work without your breeches on. You had to have a crib of corn. Of course, he brought old stock over here, hay bale in that pit, and old horse drawn, some cows and horses and mules. So he wouldn't have time, and his brother had asthma. He couldn't do physical work much. So mostly he stayed in the store. Well, they both did, but. And then my dad was, one time he was county commissioner here. They had a barrel association, had old horse-drawn hearse, and old caskets in the back of that old store, where that one old corner standing along the back there, they had caskets set in there. And had a blacksmith shop and a grist mill right across in that timber, across from that old store. Down on the far end of the block, that was later, I was a good big boy then. They had this blacksmith shop. My dad wasn't, I was a better blacksmith than him. But he had a blacksmith, you know, that run the shop there. It was a business, you know. The guy made I don't know how it was. It made a little money, I guess. My dad had the equipment, wasn't much to it, more than a old anvil and a bunch of tongs and. Well, yeah, they had some woodworking tools. They all add up, you know, like a home repairman, do-it-all guy. Like me, for instance, I try to do everything and do nothing well. But I just noticed in there the other day, I'd forgot about this one little 1/4-inch drill. I got 4 electric drills, and I got power saw and skill saw, and 4 hand saws. You know, they're all sharp. I never sharpened a saw, but I'd have them sharpened, and so I got them. Way more to. I was getting some insurance, and this old girl, insurance officer. And I got to have a list of everything in that shop, you know, 'cause it's insured too. Well, I said, my God. Yeah, the brand name too. Well, I had a list there as long as my leg. Every pair of pliers and all that stuff. Why, had 2, I have yet, 2 riding lawnmowers there. Walking one, I haven't got that. I've done away with that one. Boy, look, I'd rather ride a gold disc to walk. But I got a lawnmower out there, 16 years old. And it's still, I used it yesterday. It'll go, boy. Of course, it was like the wonderful one-horse shay. I thought someday it'll all give way at once. So I'd actually, I'm just talking silly anyway, so I'll just ignore it. But maybe it's recording it. My daughter, Dixie, she'll send this greeting card. Every excuse, you know, wedding anniversaries, birthdays, Christmas, Father's Day, and well, inside this card would be a $100 check. Well, over the years or something, I go down to the old bank, and so endorses said, "Will you give me a big one for that, please?" And this one old girl, it's her business, you know. She said, "Daughter?" I said, "Yeah." "Boy, I wish I had a yard full of children like that." Said, "You get more of these?" I've cashed 2 or 3. I said, "Well, but I only got one." But I just put them in my sock, and I had 10 of them. And I said, by gosh, I want another, that same brand, and I better get it now while I got the money. So nobody handle it. It's a Dynamart. Walmart did handle it, and then they changed some of it. So I went over to Paris, and there was a hardware over there, and I knew it'd be $1,000. But turned out it was on sale, and this old boy said, "Now, fellow, this is chain. I forgot. They may notify us tomorrow to reduce these another 20 years. But right now, that's the bottom of the keg." Said, "Are you a farmer?" I had a friend, well, a relative and friend, rancher over there, did own this place, sold it to Gary. I said, "Well, I guess I am at heart, but why?" "Well, you know, save you that tax." Oh, Lord, why? I kind of got it. "I'll buy it for him," said that. I'm a farmer. I was born in the house where I live right now. I never done nothing. "I don't care who signs it," he said. So anyway, I give it in at the Skin and Shoot. I know I give this old girl 9 $100 bills, and she gave me back a $50 bill with all the discounts, and it's marked, you know, maybe $1,000. But anyway, that more cost me $850. Go on, big bargain. Then so I got it, and that's been 3 years ago. Yeah, this is the third year I've used it, but I can use either one. This newest one had a low tire, and if you fool with them, little old pneumatic tires, it is new to me. You may have known it for years. This had a leak and slow, and I didn't find it. So this old boy down the other end of town said, let me go up there and I'll fix that for you. I said, well, man, you couldn't get that little old tire off of that wheel. No, I don't need to do that. Said, one of those rubber plugs? No, that's no good. All right. I was through mowing down there. I got some lots down there. I keep them mowed. He got in his pickup and followed me up here. Well, I cranked it up. You know, the body's tired almost. I drove it out here by my hydrant. And he got a pail. I had all my hoses tied up. And finally he found this old wood arc thorn stuck through there. Now, Lee, you take one of them old needles, they don't always hold, and you just tear a big old hole in there. So I want to show you. And he had a little old metal screw, you know, they're threaded plumb up to the head. You know, metal. Yeah. And he had this darn glue like you put on gaskets, you know. Well, he picked that thorn out, and I raised up, put a brick on it, front tire. He picked that old wood arc thorn out, and he smeared this stuff on, and then he put some on this little metal screw. And old Gary I've been helping him down there a little. He knew, you know, I wouldn't charge him nothing. So he bought me this little electric screwdriver. I didn't have one. I brought it out. It's cordless. He got that set. I better not do that. So he put it in manual. And he screwed that screw down in there. Wiped over that. Now that don't tear up your fiber or your cords or anything. But that little old metal screw and go in that little old thorn hole, you know, wood arc thorns or little nail or anything. Put a hole in there. You take it off. It's like take it to the shop. It's like changing the auto tire. They fight and finally get it off. Put a little patch inside or squirt that old rubber needle in there. But boy, that little this fellow down at the end of town had two in a three-wheeler, you know, or his is a four-wheeler. He said they'd been in there a year. I look at this, you know, and say, hey, that nail in your tire. Yeah, it belongs there. The screw, metal screw, you screw it in.
Leave it in there.
Yeah, yes, leave it. Yeah, man.
Do you know any tales about the old witch hole down here?
Well, down this side, this 160 starts here at this road on top of the hill. It goes on down to the Pappy Davis place. There's a road through there, you know. And you know, witch hole is on Pappy Davis's land. Well, back across that road on this side, there's a deep hole in that same creek goes through Gary. They call that the baptizing hole. And, we'd go swimming there at our swimming hole. In there a lot of times. But the old witch holes, they're just Well, they're back off of this creek a little ways. There's a good long way. Have you ever been to them?
Yeah.
Sort of slopes down toward that creek. Well, right in the bed of the creek, there used to be a spring, pretty round hole, but somebody put some dynamite down in it, sort of tore up that. But it just humped up there in dry times, you know. Creek, well, maybe that branch had quit running. Oksville Creek, is called a creek. But that just belched out there. Well, now, this Goodland Lime, that's the local name, it's a Mississippi lime, and is on average about 20 foot. I'm talking like a geologist now, but I just dug a lot of holes in the good earth. I'm just talking about what I've experienced. Well, now, that's kind of seamy. And you know, Mississippi type lime is soft and kind of porous. And if you pass water, well, it wears and breaks down like, you know, like burn lime. You know, you put it in a kiln and burn it, and that's the way you used to buy it, just a rock. You know, now they powder it, you know, dehydrated lime. But now this lime, it's all in here. From this little mountain, well, this side, the lime line up there at Fort Towson down there about the spring, and so it meanders through it. And north of that, in the sand hill, you don't have that Goodland lime. But from here to the river and on over in northeast Texas, you got the white lime. Well, now, right down there, that's unusual, and I haven't got any geological survey or anything, but just my knowledge of the good earth. Here in this town, used to when I was a kid, big rain in the spring, there's a big old hole, maybe that big, just, oh, darn boy, maybe along a bar ditch or somewhere. And you look down there and there's that old lime and it's got a hole in it. But now, them old holes down there, is that lime deteriorated because there's a horde of, now you see the upper Trinity, that's a geological age, the upper Trinity water sand, there's water here. If you go far enough over in East Texas, you got oil production in the upper Trinity. But it dips, it goes south. Now, that old hole just sunk. Well, now that evidently goes plumb on to the Trinity water sand, because it's fed by the Trinity water sand. There's no water in that lime of its own, you know. It has to come through a fault or something up to get in that lime. Well, they told all kind of witchy stories. One old boy I knew him good. He said him and a buddy took a roll of barbed wire, a quarter mile, and put a axle in it and cut a bush for a brake and tied you can pick up a rock down there with a hole, put that barbed wire in, you know, and let it on. Let that whole thing down. I can't. I didn't tell him because he just slapped the devil out of him. But, oh, a fellow named Talley, Alan Talley, he's dead years ago. But I heard him tell that tale several times. But anyway, there must be a kind of a cavern. But I know you read about, like in Kentucky or wherever they have those limestone caves, like this Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. There's streams of water, and they say there's fish. You catch those fish, and they've lived in this environment so long till they don't even have eyes. Well, old man Gasaway, that fellow Gasaway that died there, well, his uncle had a little house down there pretty close. I forgot his name. Knew him all my life. He's dead. And he fished, a lot. He's a bachelor and had a little place there. And he had to land up in Kansas, so he had a little income, and he done a lot of fishing, just loved to fish. And I heard him set up there at the store more than once and say he'd, put out a lot of line at this one, I forget which, maybe 3. I believe it's the one where there's a rock, shows. And the old man worked his way and he'd sit on this rock and it'd be kind of over the water. And so many feet of line and certain baits and he'd caught a perch-like fish, smooth, no eyes at all. I've heard him tell it several times, out of them old witch holes. But they was just people go down there and with some kind of a mineral rod or something. You'd hear stories about these so many jack loads of gold or treasure or something. They come through and they drop them in these witch holes, And then they dug a little metal, and they dig down, found some big old bridle bits, Spanish bridle bits. Spanish robbers, moving through, and if you could just get down, and then they told it was a mine shaft, It's kind of like the old chief's house. I think it is just a tale. I'm pretty sure it wasn't no mine shaft. I'm sorry, I know I've been a disappointment. I couldn't tell you much about Oklahoma. That sounds more like a autobiography or something.
What does Swink look like in the early days?
Well, there wasn't as much old timber and stuff. Gosh, in those days it was a fad to, every place you went, you had to clear up a place, build a house, and then the North 40 down there had to be cleared. You cut it, stacked it, have log rolling, stacked thousands of board feet, burn it. The women come and cook and quilt, and the men clear that land, called log rolling. And, but they had of course, everything had a fence around it too. Everything, because stock just run out. Wasn't no stock loss. If there was, it wasn't observed. And they was little old shanties of some kind on nearly every lot here, man. There was a lot of people. And they were all farmers, or 99%. And they wanted a barn too. You'd get up early of a morning and hear old wagons plucking, going this way or that or wherever, going to work. They rent some land as close in as they could. Sometime they'd go way to heck, nearly down to river bottom, Come in, one old fella blind. Well, he had something, get something right at the end of his nose. Smart old man Henry Pollock. Little old team, way up on Kamish or something, because he'd stay up there for a week. But he'd start home, work, pretty late. That old team of mules would come home. I was a big old boy out passing around, I guess. Met him up there on that street. About midnight, I'd come in for an old country dance or something. Moonlight, I said, "Good evening, Mr. Polly." "Whoa, Lee, is that you?" you. I said, what are you doing out in the night like this? By the eternal. Said, night made for man, same as day. He come here from Kentucky. I like the old cuss, but he is a Republican. That's the only thing I didn't like about him. But I got along with him just fine. Old man Emerald Barham was a Republican, and he run for school board member. Didn't have any children, but he was interested. Hell, he was a good old man. That's all that was wrong with him. He was a Republican. Well, hell, he was elected over and over because he put time. He'd go to Hugo or whatever, and that's, I give you my right arm. I never voted for him. I'd tell him. Yeah, Mr. Miles, I like you, I admire you. After he died, his widow come right over here. And anything I could do for Aunt Susie, she was an Indian woman. But it went to school down here at Wheelock, and maybe above that. She didn't like a lot of Indians. She didn't talk much, but when she did, it made sense. And she was a refined old lady, pretty dark skin. She was a full-blood chop. She'd come over, Lee, my stove. When she bought this house, had electric stove, but she didn't know anything about electric stove. Something didn't work. She'd come over and say, oh, I hate to bother. I don't need to cook much, but cook a little. My stove won't cook. I'd go over or the refrigerator, or the pump. She had a water system, you know. And the old pump would get waterlogged, and all she knew was just to listen. You know. But it run too much. I knew the tank was waterlogged, you know. Well, I'd go and do those things. I'd be glad to. And she'd tell me stories, show me pictures. Way back, she had this old organ. Boy, just perfect shape. She didn't have any children, but Mr. Barham had a niece down in Curtin County, I know. And she had a old Civil War rifle. I'd have liked to have that. And she had these lots right here. She had 6 lots. No, I guess she had that whole block. And so these lots, well, she was old, and she couldn't, and she didn't have a lot of money, I'm sure, left. And so I said, Aunt Susie, would you sell me those lots right there in front of my house? I don't like to be fenced in. Said, someday I may give them to you. Oh, no, I said, I guess it's just a way of saying it. I said, no, I want you to give them to me, but I'd like to have those 4 lots. I said, I wouldn't even fence them or anything. But Lord, if you don't mow or plow or something, well, this is pretty good dirt. It'll grow a weed 12 foot high. And that'll just grow up. Well, the old kids down there burning trash. If that caught a fire, you know, a good south wind is dangerous. I said, all I'd do is just, I don't want to buy them to resell or nothing, but I just keep that mowed. Well, maybe sometime. So, a month or 2. Why, she come over and said she talked to a man about putting a indoor toilet. She had that old outhouse, you know. That was years ago. I said, well, Aunt Susie, my goodness. I knew that fella. I said, he's good, reasonable. He can do it. Well, a little short of money. I said, well, your age, in the winter, walk out on that, hell, she was 80 years old. Walk out on that ice, you know, you need that. Said to you, would you want to buy lots? I said, well, yeah, I don't want to catch you in a tight or anything. If you don't want to sell me those lots, well, I'd rather you have them. Say, what they worth? Well, I said, I don't. Haven't you asked anybody else? I said, I bought some lots from Mr. Cheshire, O.C. Cheshire, Genius, $35 a piece. Now, said, that'd be good. I said, well, she knew that is enough money, I guess, and I think she meant it. She talked about giving me them. She didn't have any children or nothing else. So anyway, I went to town, got the deed, you know, and I said, Aunt Susie, when you're ready, why, I'll drive you up there. Well, maybe tomorrow. I want to dress some chicken or something. Okay. So I went up and told old Fennel. He was a notary public. Yeah. And I said, are you still? Yeah, I just got that for my business. I don't. And I told him about it. He said, Lee, see, his father lived over there on her place, and he knew her good. Fine old woman. He said, now, Aunt Susie's getting pretty old, so if you want to, I know you both, just like my parents. You have her to sign that deed, and you bring it up here, and I know. Well, I told Aunt Susie, we want to do it right. Yeah, oh, she knew Fennel. So anyway, I bought those 4 lots, and I sold them to Jack and Viola Davis. They built a house there. I knew when she called me, I was out in California. I said, no, Viola, I don't want to sell her. I just thought he'd been a carpenter, you know, poor Jack. And I thought, I'd heard a little paper or something, somebody wrote me a letter, that he sold his ranch place, and I thought maybe they just want to put some little rent houses there on those 4 lots. She said, well, Lord, we bought a place after we sold the farm, and here go, and oh, we didn't like that. And we can sell it, and we can't find a place to build. We'd like to have those lots to build us a home there and stay the rest of our life. Well, I said, that's different. How would you like us for a neighbor? I said, well, you haven't got any kid to shoot out window lights. I guess I could put up with you. So I told her, oh, we'll take them. I didn't know they was worth $1,000, $1,500 a piece since the warehouses come in. But anyway, they just was a liability to me because it cost me about $25 twice a year to get somebody to come in there with a tractor and brush hog that. And they put a nice little house. They keep it, she does yet. Poor Jack, as long as he could hump up, you know, little, she didn't much like for him to use this riding more. He didn't look back. That dog boy, he just never slowed up. So she'd put him, and I mean this, just like a little boy. Whatever she said, he's done, boy. She'd put him on this push mower around the shrub, you know, and she'd get on this, set that straw hat sideways. Anyway, they keep it looking all right. I'm happy with it. Yeah.
Do you remember the Dokesville, town of Dokesville?
No. that old log house out there, my wife's people lived in that, I think, when she started the school. They lived in that old house. You know, the one that was left there, that old log house. I guess it's gone now.
Yeah.
And she went to school. Went out to Fennel Schoolhouse or somewhere. She had walked with these Adams family. But I remember that old house. I've heard Gene Wilson, you remember him,
Yeah.
maybe. I've heard him talk about when he was a boy, and those people who run the blacksmith shop and this, and old Oaksville was a. As a matter of fact, it was number 1 Masonic Lodge.
Okay.
And then they moved from there down to Frogville when they surrendered that charter down there. And the membership, I guess, come into Hugo or wherever. But old Oaksville, and it was chartered, that was in territory days. It was chartered under the Grand Lodge of Arkansas. And the number 2 was down at Goodwater. I've seen that old building, old wood building, 2-story, you know, and that was a, you didn't have much ground floor stuff in days, according to my dad. I was gonna, gosh, I didn't answer any questions, I guess you asked me, I'm sorry.
It's more about the Masonic Lodge. You know, who chartered the lodge here at Dokesville? Who are the original?
Well, now somewhere I've seen this. We got a thing up there in our lodge at Towson. This Fort Towson Lodge, number 303. We got a list of the charter members there, but I swear I couldn't tell you about those old the old Oaksville Lodge. I haven't heard that discussed. This one old man down there, well, I can't think of his name. Somewhere I've got this little book thing that he wrote before he died. He was a grandfather to, what's his name? He's got the Bluegrass Center. What's the
Bill Grant.
Grant. Grant's daddy, what was his name? Made well. So. He's a little older than me, he's dead. But Bill's Lodge down at Frogville.
Why'd they surrender the lodge here to go down to Frogville?
I don't know why they moved it to Frogville. Like this old lodge there at Goodwater, they moved it over to Hayworth. And that lodge there, that Masonic Lodge there at Hayworth is Goodwater Lodge number whatever. Yeah, they brought that charter from old Goodwater to Hayworth.
What's the military road?
Well, I don't know much about that. I know from Fort Smith to Fort Towson. I never knew how to follow that, or I heard a lot about it. I guess my granddad was here. Gary, you looking for a place to relax?
Yeah, I've been mowing.
I heard you. No, I was gonna, you might think it's a little amusing. I was gonna show you that old deed from the state of Texas to my granddad.
Raymond, state of Texas. 1885.
That's my dad and my son.
Oh yeah.
That's an idea to make it.
Yeah.
You've seen this, haven't you?
Yeah.
John Ireland.
I was,
That's in pretty good shape, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
I seen Lodge a time or two when Mr. Hurd came up there.
Yeah. That penmanship.
Oh, yeah.
They used it them days. Now you do that with it.
When did he die, Uncle Lee?
Now, I have to look at my record to tell you. Or on this grave marker out there.
I mean, what, do you know what year was it?
I know it was in January. He was 95 and 1 month. His birthday, 24th of December, and he died 24th of January, following January. He was 95 years and 1. But there's a mistake on that marker, calling my sister. She come back here. We was both out in California. And I told her to get that marker. And she did. And she went to insurance papers or something. And she made a year's mistake. So according to that marker, he was just 94 in 1 month. But he was really 95 in 1 month.
When's the first time you went to Fort Towson? You know, the post, military post.
Heck, I was a grown man before I went up there.
How did it look back then?
Well, it was an old boy, Bill, what's his name?
Stinson?
Bill Stinson, yeah. He owned that. And there's a pit, like a walled up with a rock, down below the ground, like a ammunition pit or something. And he had hogs in that. And he'd have an old tree or something growing by and a pulley, and you'd have to hoist these, take a car, pick up something, and hoist them old hogs up out of that. They didn't get out. They was down in that hole. And they were just little pieces of wall, and you know, it was just the old fort. Mm-hmm. But now they've done a lot to reclaim that and give you an idea kind of what it was like, you see. I've been out there since, but no, I was a grown man for a while. That's my dad. He's older than me. He died last year. They bought this land from the family. And he owns it yet, or his son does, or the widow, whatever. But he said that some of that land sold from, 35 to 50 cents an acre, almost like homestead, But, look at that penmanship. All
that's
this
good, isn't it?
is written out in longhand, you don't have a typewriter. And hadn't it, look at this seal, hadn't it stayed preserved? Now my grandmother kept that, in an envelope down in it. And I'd lost it. You got so damn much stuff, all the papers and gals don't want to throw away. Out in my warehouse there, I bet you I got no telling how many little cardboard boxes. Some coming, oh Lee, don't burn that. I want to send something to Dixie before the week's out. I put them, just like pack rats, so we both are. I've got a watch in there that my mother had an old friend. And she died over here at Hugo 30 years ago. And she was 100 years old. In her 100th year. and she had a bear on a stuff down in this basement. She gave that to my mother, and she thought she was giving her 40 acres of land down here in McCurtain County. It turned out she had sold it and forgot. But anyway, my mother buried her. And in this was saving the accumulation in this watch. Her father, she's from New York, and her father went to London for a client, you know, and when he come home, she's a little bitty girl. She could just remember. He had this new watch chain and strung across his, oh, new watch, yeah. He took this watch out. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's engraved and all. And, well, Edith, she married an Indian here. She come here as a school teacher and kind of missionary. She married an Indian man. I can't remember his name. She had a picture of it. And anyway, when the old lady was, she had a lot in the cemetery down in Idaho. So my mother and my sister, I only got one sister, there's two of us, and she's 15 years younger than me. But my mother and Nancy buried the old lady, and so they wanted me to go up and bring this big old bear, kind of a hogshead, you know. It wasn't a waterproof, you know, but good and sturdy. So I went up and these niggers brought it up out of the basement and loaded it. My God, they was, Gary's got a quilt down there on the wall. It was in there. And this stuff, china, she had a set of Haviland china. My sister, my mother gave that to her. She gave me this watch. Her daddy told her, said, well, you're so, she had letters from him. He's an attorney. She's taught in Holyoke College, and, you know, smart people. Interesting. And, well, I'll give you that watch when I'm through. So she told the family. She was, well, anyway, this watch was in there, and my mother gave it to me. I've got it, and I'll show it to you. And the damn thing runs. The gal took it to California with her. Got acquainted with this old man, watch repair, and all. She told him this, oh, would you sell it? I got a collection. No sentimental reason, no. I wish it was run. You bring it in, I'll make it run. Well, at 100 years old, you couldn't get, if I can't get the parts, I'll make them. So she took it in and he cleaned it. And somebody rewind it with a key. I'll show it to you. Oh, I haven't got as much as Gary, but I got a revolver. It's over 100. It belonged to my dad's oldest brother. I was the only Hurd grandchild with the name Hurd. My grandparents had a yard full of children, daughters, children. The name wasn't Hurd, so I got the gun. I'll show it to you. You saw it.
Yes, sir. What's it do? I get it.
Key. Little leather string hung down here and that key on it. Bigger than this, you know. But, see, you set it with this key too. Get my clumsy hands in. Wind it.
Now, get over here and sit down and we don't get that on camera. Now wind that thing up. Now.
Oh, you want a picture of winding it, huh? We'll turn it so you can see that it's a watch. And that's the key. Come out. That's so little. Kind of like a
Oh,
sawmill,
boy,
but
it
it's
sure
running.
does.
Well, it's well over 100 years old. See the little second hand?
Yeah.
This one I'm wearing is 40 years old.
Hmm.
I didn't set that. It don't matter in this one. Yeah, I bought that in 50. It's not quite 40 years old. I tore up an arm. I had a wristwatch on it. And I used that right hand so much. So I traded to old, Davis. You remember him? I traded him my wristwatch and give him $66, I believe. That gold, you don't buy much gold now for.
No.
I was gonna buy. The gal got a, half carat ring, and about wore it too. So I took it over to old Zeke Lynch, feeling pretty frisky, and or she did. I was with her. So, Mr. Lynch, can you fix that? This another warning too. And one of these little claws broke off. Yeah, I'll fix it. I can build this up. So I said, why not just, new ring, put that stone in there. He went over and undone this safe, I thought, I wonder why he'd have to have it in this safe. I found out. He brought it over and it was, well, I can alter that. It just needs a little, yeah, it's a little loose. How much? Well, heard to you, $350. I said, you say you could fix that other one? It's not so bad. Now I'm going to show you my pistol. Now that's just a little old scabbard some old boy gave me. I just stuck it in there. Now that's over 100 too. I don't think you've probably seen one like it. Nope. How about that handle? See, not even a trigger guard, just a casting come down there and that little trigger just wraps around it. The main spring, I showed that to old Joe Christmas.
Yeah.
You bring that over and I'll put you a spring. I said, well, that booger's a 38 caliber and it's rim fire. You see how that hits a rim? I don't think you could buy ammunition like that, could you? I think it's 38, I believe so. But I never could find the make, or there may be a name somewhere on it. It seemed like
Where'd you get that? Where'd you find it?
Oh, it belonged to my dad's oldest brother that died when he was 17, I believe. The family all told me the story, the brothers and sisters. And he, back in them days, young fellas, a lot of them deemed themselves it was necessary to break a horse to ride. So they were riders. And this Willie Hurd was a good rider, the family. So he gets on this old pony over there on Emerson Prairie, and he was had rollers in, way they told it. Oh boy. Well, they finally picked him up. That's what we call it. Stopped the horse. And my dad and his brother was there. They was little boys. He was 17. And they said blood in his ears, nose, eyes. Oh, so he just felt real bad, and he got up behind somebody. It was about a mile, and they took him home, and he went to bed. See, well, those days you had what they called a doctor, Well, they got him. Somebody wasn't telephone, you know. They rode for the doctor. I lived out in the rural, I don't know. And well, he's afraid that he ruptured something inside of him. So he probably did. My grandmother would tell me a lot of things. Well, they give him some pain medicine. Next day, about 10 o'clock, he died. I guess he got peritonitis. You don't have to wait on that long. They don't get you, unless you, of course, they didn't have antibiotics or nothing about that. So, he died. This was his gun, and she told me that there was another man, a neighbor in there, and he got the gun from him. It wasn't new when he got it. My God, he died over, I don't know, my dad was just a little boy. See, this man that owned that, he'd been dead for he died way before I was ever thought of, I'm 82. So that damn gun was well over 100 years old. Well, anyway, it was, I guess he was born 65's in the Civil War. Well, my granddad, I don't know how much time elapsed after the Civil War. Then he married, and this is his oldest child, see, so I think he was born over here by Clarksville before they moved to, he bought this land in 85, you see. So, it's over 100 years old, that boy would be. So, and I got my granddad's axe. He brought from Texas over here with him. He come the year after I did. He was getting old, you know. He was about 76 or 7. Old man, you know, on the cane. He was old to me. Hell, I'm a lot older than he was. Anyway, he brought this old full axe. It was old, yeah. I got it out in my warehouse. And my grandmother gave it to me. And I made a hickory handle, put in it, used it. I got where I was pretty good with it. You know, if you're used to a double bit, you know, it's clumsy, that old crooked. But, I haven't used it in years. I haven't got a handle now. But on the outside, it's pitted. You know, rusticated. But if you powder that, you can see these were raised figures. It says Kelly hand hammered. These letters stick out. You know what I mean? Yeah. A little, but you can make out some of the letters yet. I got it. Then I got my granddad's old wood ark walking cane. My dad kept it, and probably ain't knowing him, cat or dog or something, you know. And he saw that. He threw it out in his garden. Well, forgot to pick it up, I guess. And 73, I guess, I come home, bought that little old Ford. Finally got everything going, brought my wife and her mother, Glenn's mother, you know, down there. And I went down to my dad's place, renter, and not as bad as it is. And old Sammy D lived down there now. Oh, it's a junk, make me sick looking. But anyway, I cleaned all up, all the truckloads of Did you ever see any of the old Ford buses ever out there when you was young?
No, I'm not like that.
Oh, there's a lot of.
You got any more pictures like that? Right there?
Well, I can't find them.
Ah.
Yeah, I've got more. Some closer. Other day, I depend on her, and I got to stop that. Yeah, do it right now. I asked her about this deed for some reason yesterday. Well, she couldn't find it. Had all kind of deeds and all stuff. Well, go ahead and tell it.
Y'all come over here and sit down. Come here and sit down. Both of you. Get both of you together.
You're gonna hunt more pictures, or you're gonna sit down?
Sit down right here.
Some more. Look.
Sit down.
Don't wait on me. I'll give them to you. Look here. Look. The man's got a camera. Well, I didn't want him taking my picture. I look like Mrs. Hag. Well, you said the wrong thing. 82. I'll show you one. You suppose not to look. No, that's not me. Well, go get the others. You're not gonna be photogenic here today. Anyway. What was the hell I was talking about? I forgot that. Oh yeah, that deed. So I said, well, gal, that beats anything I ever heard of. Well, it's not worth a penny to nobody. I said, what about that old boy that had a bunch of ancient documents? This dad made a price that. Well, you should have sold it. Now you bother me about it. And she got these old purses and stuff, undone them, had a string. There's everything. And but that deed. And I said, well, I'll be damned, that beats anything I've ever. Why would you? I gave it to you, and I was looking at it, showed it to somebody. Well, I don't know. It's just gone. So I went on out to my warehouse or something. Oh, I was running water on the garden. She called directly and I was out of sight. I thought I heard this old water squirting, on them old rainbirds. Directly she grabbed, she's got an old cowbell. You know what a cowbell is. She found that out in my warehouse there and painted it gold, she keeps it in there. Well, I forget. I go over to a neighbor and start talking, and she gets this damn cowbell and come out on the back and ring at you and hear it all over town. The way she rings it. Well, she got this cowbell and I said, what the hell, what? Come here. Is this it? Yeah. Where was it? Oh, I'd put it in another little old trunk. I said, well, don't lose it again. Thank you. I take back all this criticism. But she come a while ago, I said, what'd you do that? Well, why didn't you take care of it? I don't know what I'd done with it. I said, again, how could you lost that in one day? Well, after a while, she got this other little shoe satchel. Is this it? I said, now you be responsible for it. You put it somewhere. I got a little box. I had a cabinet builder, Ed Bankston, had a shop in the back of that where Donovan's store is.
Yeah.
He was a good boy. I had him make this little box. I got a Masonic Bible, a good big one, and I want to keep it in the dark because it's blue, right? And that'll fade. I knew that. And then I got my past master's apron and my lambskin. Well, if it's something pretty valuable to me, she tried to put it in there. I don't want all that crud in that little box. See, I got it in there. This one shows a little better, a little more. Oh, there's a lot of more. That shows a couple of old gals. Do I know?
Yeah. Are these of you?
No.
What about the man?
I thought it was oh, that's a Wilson boy.
That Wilson.
Kid Wilson, they call him. Wilbur Wilson. How long, who do you know in Fort Towson? I mean, when did you grow up there?
Yeah.
But he's a young man, honey. He's a young man.
Well,
We got a. We
got
could
red
have
hair.
a grandson.
Did your family live at Dokesville?
I imagine me and Jerry about the same age.
Yeah.
Did your family live at Dokesville?
Yeah, that's.
Dokeville.
No, did your family live at Dokesville?
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Did you live at Dokesville?
Yeah.
You did.
It. Where is the pictures of that? That old house. Don't you do it.
Come on, you sit.
last-
Hey, sit down here and tell us about that.
Oh, I haven't combed my hair all day.
Ah, the wind's blowing mine.
The last old house that was, there's several there, you know, was a town. You know, stores and blacksmith shops and all this stuff. Well, this last old log house, that's where her family lived. Way back, about the time she started to school, you know, like, god darn. Damn near 80, well, I guess she's five years, probably about 5 years old. Off of 82, see, that's about when they lived there. But I've heard her talk about the place. The only time I was ever in there.
Well, how did y'all meet?
Well, at a little party over here on the, the house is gone now. It was a Wilson house. Gene Wilson's daddy, old man John Jr. Wilson. Gene, you knew him.
Yeah.
His daddy. Well, this was belonged to somebody else, and this fella, MacDougal, lived there, and she came down here, had a friend, went to school with her, a girl named Gamble, Rena Gamble. She lived around there. She spent the night, so they went to this party, and I did too. I had another girlfriend, buried her 2 years ago. But anyway, I met the gal, and so this old girl, for some reason, her name was Polly. I mean, that's her maiden name.
Yeah.
And she come to me, and somebody come with a message, and they wanted to take her home. Okay. So, anyway, I brought Rena and my wife home up here. Oh, that old yellow building right back of that holiness church. That's where old man Will Lee lived. That was Rena Gamble's grandfather. She lived with him, went to school over there, and finished school with the gal. I think they were just 7 or 8.
See, where is that picture you think might be that of me and Orrin, me behind the doll buggy?
Yeah.
That was that Ford Okla. And
Sister, how many 100 pictures you think you've
oh
got?
gosh, I don't know.
Got some from
Better
my
find on
mother
your coming out hundreds of more.
and her mother. My God, she's got pictures there. Sometimes she gets lost. Shuts the world out.
That old
Go in and look through them old pictures. I never do that.
that old Okla.
You know where that picture of my dad's store?
Yeah. I think I know right where it is.
Now that is one of the original Swink businesses. Like I told you, it burned in 1914, and they built that brick building back. These photographers were scarce. That's my dad and his brother Joe. Oh yeah.
You go to school at Dokesville?
I went to school for that.
Oh.
But the first you went out to Fennel School out.
No,
That is late.
that is after I'd started. I said in about the 4th or 5th grade.
Yeah, you lived out on that tree farm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was that.
What was that to Dokesville when you lived there?
Huh?
How much was that to Dokesville when you lived there?
There wasn't anything but that old store building and this house. Of course, I was just a little kid. That's in 1913, the year I started school. And what was I going to say?
What was there? What was there?
This old house, I believe there's just 2 big rooms and a fireplace in each one, and then a kitchen across these two. And it had a cellar.
Under
And-
the house?
Huh?
Under the house?
Yeah, yeah. And that picture shows it, the door.
Oh. I've seen
The house was up high. It wasn't really
Yeah, I
dug.
remember the house myself.
It really wasn't dug that
Well, why don't you go comb your hair? Well, let's take your picture.
Why?
Why don't you go comb your hair? We'll take your picture.
I don't
Sit
want.
down here.
I don't want you to have my picture. I always look like a scarecrow.
How are you gonna make the headlines? You might.
Look at me. Look where I ran into a door yesterday.
Well, we're not going to take a picture of that.
Go ahead and do that, sister.
What?
Well, you look fine.
Oh.
Come here, sit down here.
Go ahead.
When you're
Well, I'll comb my hair a little
Okay.
bit. It's not that it'll do it.
when these young men are 80 odd years old, well, you don't look so bad to them. So losing my tool dressers, you know, you teach them a little something, you know, they'd learn something, and then they'd go to oil field somewhere. So, but anyway, then I began to have competition. There's other old man Wilson and Highsaw and his son and these Piercy boys. Oh. So the gal said, I tell you, I don't like to be in the house. Let me go with you. I can dump the baler. You pull that baler, you know, if you know how, you can take a hand and just shove it and set it in the dump hole, you know, in that dark valve. And so we were the crew. We made a well for Soper over there, 350 feet or something, and cased it with 24-pound, 7-inch pipe, just her and me. This old mayor come out and he said, "Well, where is that pipe?" Oh, there's a little snow on the ground. I was going to be here, see an old man. I tore up this arm, and I had fire brakes, and I got it in a belt on me. And I put my foot over a brake, my bag. See, I had it right here in the $5 corner. So you had your throttle, 2 brakes, 2 clutches, you know. And you need the extra hand, but I did it with 1. Oh, well, I could use that on the throttle. And so he said, now, Mr. Hurd, when you go to put all that pipe in there, I told him where I was, and I was deeper than the original old well. And I'll get you some help. So, nice old fellow, and just died last year. He was a farmer, moved in, retired, and he's mayor. No, he said, we got old boys, say they want to work. I said, I don't want, it might hurt somebody. A one-armed man and a little old woman, big truckload of pipe. You'll make it. So he come back that evening. I wanted to see that. I said, well, you ought to have been out here. Anyway, I set the pump, and they had bought this pump from an old boy in Hugo, electrician. He come out. I said, I'll set that. I know how to set it, but I'm not wiring no 220. I'm not, no. You'll get him. So anyway.
You know how far it is from Duxboro to Fort Towson? That's where I walked with some neighbor children through my first year.
How much did you weigh then? How much are you doing now?
About 30.
She weighs 98 now. 95. Are you smiling?
No, I'm not going to.
I
Oh,
cranked
is
it
that
up.
mine?
Well, I don't know whether it's mine or yours.
Ma'am, what's your full name?
Your full name.
What is mine?
You forgot.
Thelma Grace Bader Hurd.
Where were you born?
Willis, Texas.
When's your birthday?
January the 22nd.
1907.
1907.
1907.
See, she's a lot older.
6 months.
She said, we had a lot of time to discuss this, about 8 years. She said, Lee, on this certificate, wedding certificate, said, I'll be, let's wait till after your birthday, see? And then we'll both be the same age. We were 26, weren't we? Well, we could wait better than we didn't have any money at all. Anyway,
We're both old maids.
in September, 25th of September.
You don't remember?
Yeah, I remember. 25th of September, 1933. A long time ago, huh?
Yeah.
Does it seem long to you? My sister's younger than me, and she was just a child when we married.
Just 12 years old.
She liked it down real good. It does yet. And so there's women in my house one day. One of these women said, Nancy, it just seems unusual, sister-in-laws, the way you feel toward Thelma. I said, well, she's a saint. A saint? Yeah, she lived 50 years though, Lee Heard. She has to be. All right. I've been talking till I'm give out, so I'll rest if you'll talk.
I don't talk.
They got a, huh? You don't? Not even when you're angry?
What year did you start to school?
Where did I start school?
Yes, ma'am.
What year?
Oh, 1913.
Where?
Here at Fort Towson.
How big was the school?
Oh, it was a big, you've seen the picture, haven't you? Of the old school building?
2-story high.
Mhm.
2-story,
Yeah.
brick, pretty school. I don't know why they tore it down and painted it pink.
Well, they didn't tear it all down.
Almost. But I think I gave Gary that picture of the school, didn't I?
Well, he sure's got a lot of pictures.
I've got a picture of my first and the last day, and I couldn't find it. I looked for it just a little bit ago.
Yeah, well,
Who is your father?
Will Medler,
How you spell his last name?
Meador. And my brother, well, and all of us, every year we'd start school, they'd call us Meter. Now, I had a friend that said she was ashamed to say Medler, afraid people would think she was talking. And,
cottonfield.
yeah, so she'd call us Meda.
Who is your mother?
Cassie Metz.
M-E-T, how's that spell?
M-E-T-T-S.
Yeah, M-E-T-Z, the way it comes from Germany, but they changed it. I remember that.
But when my brother went to California, everybody called him Meter, so he just went by that name. I didn't like it. I changed it every time they'd call me Meter up at Fort Towson.
Where'd you two go courting?
What?
Where did we go courting?
For 7 years in this swing.
Yeah, this same old swing. That's right.
My mother had it. We lived up at Fort Towson.
Half of this back turns over and makes a cradle.
And then when the children were born, we put them in this turned over and had this cradle.
Can you stand up by yourself?
I don't know why.
Well, I want to show you something.
You got your gun?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How come that? So you like that?
Well,
Huh.
And I put a mosquito bar.
But that booger, how old is that?
Well, it was second hand when Papa bought it.
When? When did he buy it?
Well, in about 1921.
Well, it's not as old as this house. I was here when the man built this. 1918.
We bought this from Dr. McPherson.
Yeah.
No? Did we?
I knew Dr. McPherson.
We bought a lot of stuff from them. They moved from Fort Towson. We lived across the street. So we bought a lot of stuff.
Tell me about drilling water wells.
Well, my dad had a partner, and they had a drilling. They had 2 machines, and so in the summer out of school, I got sent out, you know, and yeah, I could dump a little old flat bottom baler, you know, lift it up and pour it out the top, and well, it had this old Keystone machine, and it had a steam engine, upright steam engine, and an upright boiler. Well, I was sort of afraid of that darn boiler. A good thing I was. But I could get wood and put it that close, you know, or I could, of a morning, we'd squirt water in there and put the fire out at night. And I could get kindling and start a fire. And then this fella Grohl, Al Grohl, and he'd check this. He is pretty good with steam. Anyway, but the time I was, I'm going to say 10, 12, maybe 13, 14. Why, my dad was always so busy, had a lot of irons in the fire. And he'd send me out on this little old cam and treadle machine. And some old farm fella, you know, sitting around the store there, old like fella. In those days, all the boys, I wasn't no exception, you taught to respect your elders, you know. Well, take some old man out, and so you come around to whatever, something different. Oh, no, now. Well, some family called me Jack. People call me Jack.
You're talking too much.
Said well, he asked me, and she told me a billion times in 55 years I talked to him, which I do. But anyway, you can't do that. No, don't do that. Well, you know, it's really hard on you. You say, well, that's the way it's done, and that. So I got sent out in the summer. Well, after I got, sometime I'd have to stay in the old store. And I didn't like that at all. But whatever was to do, I did it, tried to.
Oh, sure.
And so, actually, I had this old machine off down on the Blackland. And lost some tools down there. And didn't have, well, I'm a pretty good sized little boy, but then, I don't know just what year. But I talked to another old driller down here in McCurtain. He said, I got a string of tools, old square joints. Oh, God. And I'll loan them to you. Well, this is wood frame.
This is our first turn.
He surely seen those.
And Lee made this. Whittled it out.
He whittled that out.
And I did the milking.
Don't tell him that. Man's supposed to do the milking. That's rough. But I tell you, she didn't tell you. I cooked breakfast every morning, made biscuits. Didn't I, dear?
Yeah, while I milked.
Oh, we worked together all night, yeah.
How'd you do laundry?
Washboard.
We didn't get a washing machine till after the war, Second World War, did we?
I don't remember.
Well, at home we had I think they called it the ABC. I forgot how it worked. Do you remember?
Yeah, an old handle or something. It was a machine.
I forgot.
But
Wasn't very good.
we got a Maytag. It was a ringer type, you know, gooder. And she traded that to this old boy. How many years ago? over 30, wasn't it?
Yeah.
For this Maytag we got now. It's in there and it's washing too, boy. But that's when she started to work with me. She said, boy, this washing, if I had one of those, one day we was in Hugo, said, this old boy named MacDonald, he died years ago. And she knew his folks and all, I did too. Come on, let's go down. Where are we going? No, we're down at so-and-so MacDonald, appliance store.
Showing
And,
my age.
So, went down and she's interested in this one. Said, boy, if I had that, you know, I'd put the washing, you'd punch that button and we'd go on to work and come back. And, okay. I guess I had enough money. So she said, now, whatever this old boy's name, I forgot. Forgot his given name. Old man Jim MacDonald's grandson. Carl MacDonald's son. You don't know them, they're all dead. But anyway, said, how much for my ringer? Said, it is not a blemish on it. Said, now Thelma, I've got a warehouse full of that old ringer machine. You cannot. Said, oh, I'd, give you $25. Well, you bring that down. You want me to plumb it? No, I got to plumb it.
Would you be interested in knowing what I'm doing now?
Yes, ma'am.
That's cross stitch.
That is a son of a gun. She's been working on that for months.
All the states.
Back off a little, sister.
Well, he'll tell me if you
Oh,
want
I
me
can get
back
it.
off.
Each one of them has
Well, I
got
could've.
instructions.
Taking this off. I lack 3 or 4 stitches. Here's the way it'll look. Well,
She's got the frame and the whole damn thing.
some of the things I'm sure you can't tell what they are. I couldn't.
But she followed the instructions. There's 60 some odd different colored thread. She come to this. She come to Oklahoma, wherever. And I said, there's a farm tractor. I said, Jesus Christ, Oklahoma farm? I said, up here in the wheat country, there's a lot of farm tractors, all right, but cattle and oil and gas.
So here's Oklahoma. That's
Yeah,
what I made.
Oil and gas.
So anyway, she said, well, I said, put a derrick, put oil and gas. She said, well, she did that on her own, see. It was a farm tractor.
Yeah, I see that here, farm tractor.
Yeah, so I said, hey, I was out of the 77 counties, all but 2's got producing oil. So that's more important than that little wheat land up there with them tractors. Not very much a row crop. So,
Tennessee. It's a gun and a powder horn and a coon-tail cap, I think.
now that's hard. You have to go in the weave and warp of so many little fine needle, one little thread that ties knots. It's enough to run anybody crazy wasn't already crazy. But she
Some
worked
things,
it
now that corn I didn't like that much. See here?
Yeah.
This is pretty, I think. And California too. That sure was hard to do. See, there's 2 colors, 2 shades of purple in there. Well, you couldn't tell them till I outlined it.
I'm gonna show him some of mine.
Oh yeah, you,
She don't ever brag on
he's
him.
jealous. You ought to get a picture of old Booger.
Did-
Booger Ray.
Did he whittle that?
No. Dixie sent that from California.
Does
Some
he still
man-
whittle?
Some man that out there made it.
I say she's a wonderful. She don't ever. I did that years ago.
I can crochet, tat, knit, needlepoint,
everything but make money. You can make everything but money.
Oh, that's good.
You know,
Do you still whittle?
I haven't in quite a while, but I made the Missy Dixie sent me a little, say 1 by 12 or 14 piece of white pine, perfect white pine from California, and she said, Daddy, I want you to, I should talk to him on the telephone. She talks every Sunday morning. And then she told me she wanted a picture of this house. Well, man.
Have you got a wife?
Yes, I've got a wife.
Would you take her that, or whichever one you want, and I'll give you one. Have you got one too?
Sure.
These are pin cushions,
Oh, yeah.
and you put your needle. I mean, you fit them all out, you see.
You show them the rest of it.
Well, hold this.
See that hand shaking? You'd
Hard
wonder
for me to control my hands. Didn't want to do it.
That this rolls up.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
I used to sewed, made all my clothes and my daughter's clothes.
you could make a wedding suit, couldn't you?
Yeah,
Why don't you?
for who?
Well, for me. You're not going to last. I may trade you in on a newer model.
I wish you would.
So, I'm going to tell you. You see, now, say those little leaves.
Mhm.
There's 4 distinct cuts, see? And to make one of those leaves. And if you're not careful, you might just flip that out. So you be careful. Now, when I start to make this house, those 2 trees and the leaves on them, the brick in that fireplace, and the shingles on the roof. Oh man, I didn't work steady, but an hour, after supper. So I worked on that sucker for, I don't know. Little gay come by. He said, "Oh, would you let me take that over to the him? No, I don't trust you. I'll put it up. Would you let me take that over to the fair?" Said, "You'd win first place, I know. There's a lot of that." I said, "Gary, hell, I've been working on that for a good long while, and the Missy wants it. I'm fixing to mail it to her." And he said, "Well, now they got people there day and night. I'll be responsible for it, and you're bound to win." I said, "Well, I tell you, I'm going to let you take it. And whatever I win, it'll be yours, see? Because I'm holding you responsible. You have to do me another one, or I can't use sharpening." So, anyway, when he come back, he knew that $5 or whatever it was. But they had this long blue ribbon at the first place hanging on this. See, I'd made I know you've seen those wooden chains.
Yeah,
They got one
yeah.
piece of, well, I made those chains to hang this on the wall. And this long blue ribbon on the first place, chopped up down there. So I just done that up in the box, sent it to her. When I visited her out there one time, well, she had stuff that I'd forgot. See, she had a son. Oh hell, he'd be 30 years old now. He got killed when he was 17 in an auto accident. Her and Joe adopted a couple of children, 1 and 2. They're little girls in high school this year. But anyway, stuff I'd made I'd plumb forgotten about this 2 locks, padlocks, out of one piece of wood, and they was locked together. One of them was flat, kind of round. The other one kind of like a Yale, and there's all one locked together. I forgot about that. You do it the same way you do a chain, you know. But there's a bunch of stuff, little statuettes. So she had this picture of my old house. It's home to them, you know. And that ribbon's still hanging on its birthday. Yeah. Oh, I've had a few ups and downs.
Yeah, don't.
Anyway,
It's a pretty good picture.
you had a picture that's pretty good?
I mean, that picture of old roast.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. But
Or none stand out by a dog bucket.
she had two brothers who both dead.
Older than, younger than me. And they both gone.
You knew Glenn, didn't you?
Yeah.
But he had a brother between her and Glenn. Lived in California for years. Died out there.
How long you two been married?
Be 56 years in September. We had a 50-year party.
You got some pictures of that. You're pretty in that. Just 5 years ago. You're not going to show him that picture? There's one in that middle bedroom. I'll do it.
Of what?
If you and I at our 50th wedding party.
Well, if you insist.
Well, Jesus Christ, they wasted this much time. Might well see the whole mess. Boy, there's a darn wash. Oh, that's a nest too. God, I've got to start using my porch a lot more. Uh-oh.
That's good. What's the wall stuff in?
What? There's a little.
Is that you?
There was a wasp nest, honey.
Where?
Right under your arm there. Little striped wasp, and look,
I stepped on one the other morning.
look. I killed him. Killed the spatter.
We
too.
got to have another.
You got plenty, haven't you?
That's a good picture.
One of the neighbor girls made that, didn't they? The girls up here?
I guess.
Pat and Nola.
I don't know.
There's about,
Heck, they
50.
took pictures all so long ago.
wasn't there about 50 people here? You got the book with them registered. Huh? How many people? 30, 40, 50 or what?
I guess. I don't know.
Why, you're supposed to know. You got a book with their signature all in it. Haven't you? Yeah. Well, answer me. I don't know if you hear me or not.
When I was in school, they called me Gracie. My name is Grace. And one old boy started calling me Amazing.
Amazing Grace.
Well, what else?
I don't know.
We
Yeah.
moved here, Hoss, when Jerry.
As a year old, we've been here 50 years and 51 years in August 1. We'll be 52.
We moved here the day after his birthday, wasn't it? He was a year old.
Well, that's okay.
I think that's right.
Oh,
My memory's bad as yours here.
what did you use to drill the water wells with? What kind of bit and what kind of drill?
It was cable tube.
Cable tool.
Yeah. No, drop. Now, I never went into, never fooled with a rotary at all.
Oh, these are water wells?
Yeah.
How deep's the water table around here?
Well, it'll vary from, as you go north, the main water supply, permanent, you know, It's
One
a
shoulder.
upper trendy water sand. It's just a lake of water. If you drill to it, you got an unlimited amount of water.
They still are, the doctor said.
Now the sand is so fine till it won't discharge
I was born
well
sideways.
enough to irrigate, you know, like 2,000 to 3,000 gallons a minute or something like that.
Pretty too.
A house, you know, for a house or watering stock, why you can just put a new pump and let it run till it wears out. It'll be water. So that'll run, say like on this 80-acre town site, it'll even vary here. I believe my well's 142 feet. And they just drilled one for Gary the other day. I think they're about 140, but it caved and the old plastic, you know, I never used that. I might have set a well or two, but I used steel pipe. And that damn, if it wanted to cave, you go down to that cave and put a different bit that'll go inside your steel pipe and carry that to wherever you want it. See, that seemed right to me, but oh well, cable tools were antiquated with rotary because they got those air machines now, and they'll drill a well that'd take me a week or 10 days. They drill it in a day because they just blow a hole in the ground, you know. But anyway, I built a drilling machine. I designed the clutches and had the machine shop do this machine work. I took a Ford brake drum, old mechanical brakes, you know, but it's Ford parts, and I carried that to the shop. I had it all drawn out. I built this machine. I drew the picture. That inch represent a foot. And down there in my tool racks is the old Congo. I built that from scratch. And it was good. I'm telling you, those clutches were housed, you know, like a brake drum. Gosh. And the ones that you buy, like over here at Fort Worth Sputter or Wichita Sputter or something, old outside and you get wet of a night, it really go over the hole and, you know. And boy, you set that brake down, you just locked it. You could pull your pole in, you know, you dare it. It'd work. The hoisting brake, it pulled the tools, and then the spudding clutch that turned these crank arms, you know, that lifted and dropped them tools. And had about a little over a ton of tools, you know, to lift and drop. Well, I generally set my arms about 24 inches. You drop that about 55 times a minute. And then you could dig, you know. And then you knew what you was doing because you put in a turn of water and you drill, depending on the formation. You come out and you bail that out. You could wash a sample. You knew just what you was doing right where you was doing it. It took a little longer, but that hole was straight. You know, you cased it with steel pipe. It had to be pretty straight. And you pick and drop. As long as them tools are running, why? Now you can take that rotary and that damn set up here and drill out through yon hill over there if you want to. And you might do it. You do it. And that's why they like that plastic for one thing. Because it'll go around. I made most of the wells right here in this town before this public water. And old Donovan too. Donovan. He's got more customers probably than this water system out of Pine Creek Lake, you know. But anyway, it'll vary from 140 here in this town to, well, there was a well across this 80 quarter mile down another townside line, I think old man Petty said about 85 feet. And they didn't even have a pump in it, but boy, it was excellent water when I first, when I come here, there wasn't, that old public well was there in the middle of the street. And old man Blanchard, old man Swink, and old man Petty, they had private wells. Right down here, right south of my two racks, you know, the lots, they're just, I mow them now, but there's a spring belched out there. There's a fault line or something. It come from the Trinity, and it washed out a grew about that wide and always that deep. Well, the town had a old wash pots, and, you know, the whole, and it was a social affair too. Every day of the week, women was there washing. Had old clothesline and maybe barbed wire, I don't know, you know. And all south of that was timber, you know. And old kids would go down and drag up old dead limb or something, you know. And they washed there. Well, well, about the first one I really was a hand on was old man Will Lee up there. And I know it was caved, and we cased it one night. And gosh, I wasn't a bit sleepy, you know, put old sheet metal pipes in hen skin. But we got her cased and gathered up these old lanterns, went home, and it was past 12 o'clock. I was a big old kid, you know, but able to rake the mud back or dump a baler or whatever. I don't remember staying up that late. I wasn't a bit sleepy. I was a hand. But, I worked on different. One time I went up in Pottawatomie County as an oil field there. Sacred Heart, Oklahoma. And
I wish I could find that picture.
oh, I bet you can find pictures galore. But you may not find old Okla.
Oh, that's your drilling rig. This one that you invented, or that you designed?
I don't know which one it is. Yeah, I built that rig. I built that from scratch. I first built a big sawhorses and put it together with bolts. And then I had my brothers to cut that rig timber and treat it. You know, pressure treat it. They had to find pretty big trees. That was
My mother.
5 by 14 or 16.
My
Those
mother
main
found a
steel.
picture in the paper that she thought that looked like, so she kept it. But that's me.
Oh, is that you?
Oh, we used to have more fun, young folks. We'd go camping up on the river and fish and have the best time.
They don't
Different.
do that now.
Different
sister.
to young folks now.
Sister?
And we'd even play Wolf over the River and things like that.
How you play
Yeah.
Wolf over the river? How do you play that?
I forgot.
Oh,
Well,
you-
you choose sides.
Yeah, and you run, and
Well,
somebody
what do you run for?
keep them getting caught.
I forgot. Wolf
The
over
wolf
the
would
River.
be in the river.
Yeah, and you run across, and if you had to be the wolf then.
Yeah.
And,
If you got caught.
yeah, but that her brothers, you know, and her parents, they called her sister. She was the only. So I started calling her sister, and I do now. So when she and I was the crew, he was over here at Broken Bowl. A stranger, you know, came and wanted a well. So went out about 100 feet, 120, something. So he's busy, and we made that pretty quick, but he had to stand around, you know, and watch. And me talking to her. So when When we got done, he said, now, I'd like to put he had electricity, hadn't been there long. I mean, the electric line. I'd like to put a pump on it well. I said, well, would you like me? No, he said, I'm not, money-wise, he wasn't quite ready. But I don't even know who handles them pumps. So I had this friend in there at Broken Bow. I forgot his name, he's dead now. I said, you know, whatever his name. Yeah, hardware man. Yeah, I know it. I said, well, he handles this jacuzzi pump. And I've got one, I live with it. And so I think it's a good one. And he handles them. You go into him, he'll send you one. So, anyway, way later I was over there. And this fella had come in. What are you showing now, honey? Oh. He said, Herd, did you make a well for so-and-so? And then he see. Maybe I'd have to look at my logbook. Oh, yeah, I'm out here west of town. Yeah. He said he come in here the other day. Said, I got a new water well, and said this man that made it told me to come in here and you sold the kind of pumps he liked. Buy one from you. You'd give me a good price. So this fellow said, well, who was it made you well? He said, this fellow said, now listen, it wasn't a hard name to remember, but I just forgot it. I'd have to look on that old canceled check. Said he lives over in Choctaw County. Said some old man and his sister. Well, he had heard me talking to her, and I'd call her. Some old white-headed man and his sister made it. Said, working little old woman.
You think he had a long dress? That was mine.
That's a baby, too.
Yeah. My daddy said he'd carry me and put this over his shoulder.
That was your dress?
Yeah. Maybe I got some dresses. Did you show him any of my dresses? Did you show him any of my dresses?
No, I've got your petticoat full.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's what your mama said it was.
Well, she ought to know she was there.
Well, that's turned sort of yellow, didn't it?
Now tell him this story.
Oh, I bet this is it. It is.
Oh, some of my clothes too, huh? This old girl said the other day, said, you sure aren't looking good.
Yeah. This is Lee's petticoat.
I said, I never did look good. You mean I'm just still alive? No, you do. You look good. I said, you ought to seen me about 60, 70 years ago. Gosh, she said, before I was born? I said, it wasn't before I was born 60 years ago.
I made this quilt and gave it to Lee for his birthday about 2 years before we married.
I reckon I still got it.
You wouldn't have if I hadn't kept it for you.
Her aunt, she said, she showed it to her aunt, old lady. Steve Bateman's wife, you remember Steve? Aunt Molly. Aunt Molly said,
My
sister,
mother made this.
the whole family called her sister, said, sister showed me this quilt before she gave it to you, this double wedding ring. Said that I knew she was suggesting something, and I'm pretty sure she thought she'd get that quilt back. She made every stitch. One day she was telling a friend, I made every stitch in that. She lived up in Pushman County. Her mother said, now, sister, you know I wouldn't have let you, I helped you on that. No, you didn't. Now, Mother, Mama, you know I made every stitch in that. You remember how long I had that quilting frame up and people bumped into it and let it down? I made every stitch. all that's hand, and it's fine as a sewing machine.
Well, about ready to.
Have
Well-
I just wasted your afternoon?
Oh no, sir.
One time, an old boy from the State Geological Survey come by. Are you Lee Hurd? I said, yeah. He said, well, I got your name here, and in the State Geological Survey, water well man. He said, could you tell me? He said, I go to farms, and they said, well, I don't remember. I forgot how deep it was. It's a good one. And old Herd boy made it. And if you'd see him. So I said, well, he had a map. See?
Oh, I had that.
And yeah, that's that old log house out at Old Oak.
Oh.
There was a lot of stuff on the floor and you couldn't wash it up. They said it was blood where they had been killed, in that old house.
There's old bullets somebody had dug in, and you could see that old lead had shot inside that house. But sit down. Well, I forgot my place. You interrupted me.
About the geological survey
Oh,
guy.
yeah. So he came in and sat down and spread this thing out on the table, this map. And yeah. So I got my old log books, and I told him how deep, when, and what it's cased with. Oh man, I got him a dish of ice cream and
Me and
some
Nora
little
did that.
Hi-Ho crackers, he loved that.
Here's
He
Glenn.
said,
This
you
one's
know,
for Lynn.
my friend said, I'm going to call you friend from now on. Said, you've done 3 months' work for me. Said, I could have traced out these well and I wouldn't have found out nothing. You give me your figures and everything. Said, oh, I love you for that. He shook hands warmly. He said, boy, I can breathe easy now. You've done 3 months' work for me. And more accurately than the owner could, What are you looking for now?
Well, I was looking for those schools. My first, I put them together, my first and the last day,
Yeah.
the day I graduated.
Hell, you went to school all over the nation. Her dad was supposed to be Welsh, but I think he had a little gypsy blood. I never moved but twice in my life. I don't hardly remember the first time. And the second time, when I bought this place,
It's Lynn after this.
why, her daddy come, and her daddy and mother, and they moved while I was away at work. When I come home, I come here and place at the end of town. So, hell, I don't remember moving. I watched other people in this store, I know that. From just watching. That's Dixie and Jerry.
Yeah, now this is, when we first moved over here, Lee was right out there cleaning up the street.
Oh,
51 years ago.
And that's
not
the,
long.
Jerry was a baby.
I cut posts, put our posts out of that street down to the schoolhouse and fenced my garden. So I cleaned that after work. Come in, make a garden with one of these little push flowers, Oh,
What's your address here?
This says
uh,
912.
it's just Swink box 34.
Oh, you remember.
Oh,
We haven't had that box about 40 years.
I got a memory like a. And that zip is 74761. 74761. That's all there is to it.
Oh yeah.
I have to look. I can't remember.
Well,
I can't even remember my own telephone number.
we're going on almost 4 hours now.
Well, I'm sorry. I hope I've helped. I mean,
Oh yeah.
maybe you'll have a place for a comedy or something. You say, this is a comedy. An old
Okay.
boy that,
Don't let anybody see my picture.
no, keep it for his collection. Now, don't have to watch her all day. I come in and say, well, yeah, what are you burning today? You should. She'll put something to cook and go over in this nest and shut the world out, you know. I come in and here's in the sink a pot with beans burned to the bottom. Oh Lord, I never like to cook. I'm under this quit. Well, you damn near have already, so. Anyway, TV dinner, something like that.
Well, can I get your autograph?
Oh yeah, yeah.
We need your permission to use the tape.
That's what this amounts to, huh?
Yeah. Right there.
Yeah. Okay. I even have to look for my social security number. You need that?
No.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed meeting you, and always like to see one of Harm's boys. Only regret I have, that's another book, and I'm not going to write it. But I was 40 years old before I joined the lodge. I had a reason for that. A couple of guys, I hadn't really had a run-in with them, but this one old boy turned me in to get even with his son-in-law. We was hunting birds on an off day. Well, this old boy, my buddy, was so truthful. Well, this game ranger come to him. Oh yeah, I said, well, you and Lee heard? Yeah, but Lee's old gun, I had an old Remington automatic, and that sucker. I start to wrap it around. Don't. Old O.C. Cheshire down here. You didn't know him. He buried a month ago. Well, he just told him. He said he didn't kill a one. I just killed 2 or 3, whatever. Well, let's go back by Lee. He said, I bet he'd want to help you pay that fine. We'll just file against you. Okay. Come back. Said, and this old game ranger, he'd see me, and I'm coming down and go with you sometime. Go bird hunting with you. So he drove up, him and old Ocean. And, that's been a good while ago. He said, oh no, I didn't come to go hunting. I just come to talk to you about some hunting you done so and so Saturday. So he said, Oshie's done told me the whole story. Okay. Where do we? So old Albert Lohr, you know that Lohr boys up there. Their daddy. He lived here, and he was town justice or something. So we went up to, and he just filed against Oshie. Well, I just give him a check for the whole fine. Oshie didn't have his pocketbook with him, and anyway, he wanted to pay it all. He gave me half of this, what it was, $25. Well, this old man that done that, it was a year or two before we found out it was Oshie's daddy-in-law. Well, he was a Mason, see. Well, another fella, you knew Oscar Lee married.
Yeah.
His daddy. Well, this is just a rumor, he might not even said it, but about a thing that happened here. And so they called me up as a witness to this examining trial. I said, hell, I don't know nothing about them boys and gals. It is against Lester Merritt's brother. He's a school teacher. So I said, I don't even have a girlfriend there in Swink. I don't know nothing about this friggin' deal that's supposed to go on. And, but anyway, somebody had told Lester, this is his little brother involved. Homer married. He's dead too. Lester's dead. But anyway, he told this man, and this man come to me, he said, you know, I ought to kick his little spinning ass. Because he had testified. I didn't. The record never showed nothing. I told this fellow, old Quince Dickinson, he was a postmaster, depot agent. I said, I tell you what you do. Next time you're talking to Lester Merritt, you tell him to meet me on the high road anywhere. And you can kick my ass if he wants to. God damn, that made me, well, now I don't know, I never talked to Lester Merritt. I'd known him all my life. He might not have done it, but I know old man Hollis McDougal turned me in. But, well, the night, I knew these fellows. Well, they didn't attend lodge as old men. So finally, I was head of the school board, and the teacher and me sent in our application to the lodge together, and we were elected. So it was my night. They come by and told me, you was elected, and set a fall meeting, you know. And so, boy, I was ready. I'd almost forgotten. You know, it takes a month. You investigate a month. So they sent me word, said I had old trucks and an old car, and said, we'll come after you. Don't, just be ready. So this night they drove up Obie Medford, you might remember him, and Milton May, Elijah Meggs. When they opened this door and that dome light come on, these two men, they didn't know it, but I knew it, had kept me from out of the lodge all these years, see. They were sitting in the back seat. That's right. Oh, of course I don't know. There, they stopped me. Get in, get in. So I hopped in. Well, the lodge is a pretty low time. And these two old men were the only two besides the team. They was just sitting there in lodge. And after I was initiated, you know, they give everybody, and they both got up. I can't, I've wondered a million times. Several generations, and, you know, and you didn't ever join the lodge. So I'm glad you can't read my mind. These two old men, because they're the one that kept me, because I didn't want to be blackballed. I knew that much about it. But they died being friends of mine. This is maybe just in my mind, but this old man done that to get even with Olson, his son-in-law. And so I resented that for him, but I sat in lodge with the old man. He began to go back to lodge a little more after that. But that's the only regret I got. If I had a picture in their categorical lectures, I'd go down to winter, down to my tool racks. I had this doghouse. Well, I showed it to my new friends and my old friends. Yeah.
Don't like guns.
Well, we're going to take off.
Well, I've enjoyed the visit.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And if I've helped you, why, good. And if not, why, I can't take you bird hunting because I can't walk that far.